Oh, man, we're back. Back in the sanctuary, the beat lab, the studio, whatever you want to call it. Back for episode 4. And we got an exciting one, guys. I thought last week, episode 3 would be our best episode, and I've heard from several people that it was so far, and that's the goal, right, is to get better every time. But this week is going to be special because we have our very first guest here in the studio, our good friend Derek. Derek, what's up, man?
It's not much. Doing great. Really glad I got to watch practice. Excited. Thank you for having me on, man.
We're glad to have you on. Derek, you go way back with me and Preston, and Derek's a big metalhead, and Derek's going to have a lot to say about his music journey, and then we'll also dive into a little bit of his profession. But first, Derek kind of teed us up there. Before the show, we had some screaming evidence practice. You guys practiced for about 2 hours or so. So, Tyler, Preston, what's your guys' thoughts on some of the new songs you're working on and where you're at with those? Because from my perspective and Derek's perspective, y'all sounded really fucking good tonight. So let's hear it.
Well, I guess my take on the new songs is that they are not finished one bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot more work that needs to be done. Tonight was mainly just a jam session, get together, play the new stuff, make sure we're all familiar with what we have put together for those. And then with Derek being here, we wanted to play some songs that he wanted to hear. So with that, I mean, really not a whole lot else. Tyler, what do you have?
Well, my 2 fingers I used to pluck the strings blistered 3 songs in.
Yeah.
Pussy. So, as far as these new songs, they're way more challenging to me than what we used to do.
Yeah.
And I've watched my own ability on the bass increase over time just from pushing and pushing and pushing. And I get to this point where I'll play a song, I'll write the bass parts to a song, and I'm like, I fucking love what I did here.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to play. And then I think to myself, well, maybe I could do a little bit less and get away with it. I'm like, that's not rock, dude.
That is not metal as fuck.
I hope to God everybody listening has seen that video, because if you haven't, comment on Kyler's TikTok channel or off of a YouTube video and just say, play that video or send that video, because I'll find a way to make sure you see
That's
it.
not rock music.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
But, with that, the issue I'm running into is each song is getting quite difficult for me to play. And to play it fresh is one thing, but when we've been playing for 2 hours and then I'm expected to jump in on this bass part that
It's
not easy.
It's tough.
And so for me, I realize I just need to work on my stamina with playing, practice more, and if I can nail it, dude, it's gonna. It brings a certain dimension to the songs that we've written where I'm so focused on groove and just the flow of the song, and I think it brings a lot of that groovy stuff from like Deftones and Incubus and things that I pull inspiration from.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think the stamina piece is something that can be said for all musicians, right? I mean, myself included. I mean, I when I had a kid, I'm like, well, because I'm not going to be playing guitar as much, and now that, kids getting a little older, I'm able to get back into it, I noticed that, boy, my stamina is not near what it used to be. And then you go and watch some of these bands that are headlining big shows play for 2.5 hours straight, and they're not stopping. The only time they get a break is when one of the members is doing a solo. And it makes you question your own stamina. So that last song you guys played, I'm not sure what that one's called, but that bass line is ridiculous.
It's the dumbest shit I've ever written.
Yeah. You had unplugged, put the bass down, shut the amp off, and Sean's like, yo, let's run through this real quick.
Because my
like,
fingers were throbbing. My fingers were throbbing,
guy's a pussy.
and I was like, I'm done playing. We've been through it. And then I hear Sean playing that riff, and I'm like, really? That's what you want right now?
Dang it.
I think that's exactly
that's
what you
the
said,
option
too.
you're going to go with when I'm done. Okay, that's cool. I appreciate you too, dog.
It was impressive though. I thought it was impressive. Derek, I'm sure you agree that it was a rather impressive bass line.
It looked cool.
Yeah.
It definitely hurt. It definitely sounded cool, but it even looked cool.
Let me visualize this for the listeners. This is a really, really fast song, and the bass line is something that is not able to be stretched in one hand position. So Tyler is going all the way from the first fret down to you were moving.
It's only the fifth, but it's a bigger
on a
stretch
bass.
than
It's
you
a
would
huge
think.
stretch, and he's flying up and down the neck of this thing, and I'm like, yeah, that probably should have been the song that was played like second or third, not 15th.
So what's interesting about it is I realized that if I position my thumb on the back of the neck just right, I don't have to completely move my hand. I shift my wrist.
Okay.
So I'm not really like
That's that
hands
acoustic
off.
guitar player coming out in you.
Yeah, so that's stuff I had to learn on the acoustic to be able to play these funky ass chords and stuff. So what I do is I plant my thumb more towards in between the first and the fifth, and then I can just more or less shift my wrist back and forth really fucking fast and have the accuracy to be able to hit the note I want to hit
Got a lot of
every
practice.
time.
Yeah, for sure. And Derek, you play acoustic, so you get it. Some of those chords are funky, man, and it's. I mean, we call them jazz chords. Anytime it's a real weird hand position, we call them jazz chords.
It's not a standard G, D, or A.
No, it's
Get away
not.
from me.
And it's not an octave chord. It's not a string skip or something. It's this really funky hand position that really makes you contort your hand, and that was a lot of what you were playing there. So, but it was awesome. I mean, for being wore out like you guys were. I mean, you guys fucking killed that shit. I mean, me and Derek are in here, just the two of us, just headbanging. We're on TikTok live. People are sending flame emojis. Everybody's having a good time, and we're fucking jamming. So
it was like a personal concert because like I've never got to experience that before. Like
that's right.
We used to jam.
Before.
We used to jam in high school for
did.
fun.
Yep.
But it was never like that. Like you got to, I got to see the sausage being made.
Yeah.
And even though
Eat our
I didn't
sausage.
even though I didn't get to see the creative process, it was enlightening to see that you guys jamming together things that aren't clean. Maybe there's technical difficulties or like we can't quite make
There are always
we can't
plenty of
quite
those.
make the flow right.
Mm-hmm.
But then I know what that looks like 2 months from now when you guys are playing on
Playing
stage.
it on stage.
So it was really cool to see that because that's a part that most people don't get to see.
Well, and there's that song that you guys are working on that has that fucking disgusting ass riff. And, when you first started practicing, that was the first song you were working on, and you're just kind of writing this song as you go. You got the intro riff, you've got a bit of a bridge in there, and it's you're let's run through that again. I think I got something. Run through that again. I think I can make this better. And you're just, that creative process is on the fly a lot once you've established the foundation of the song. So that's super cool.
Well, on that song, Preston and Sean had worked on that, and the
For
only time
15
I have
minutes.
heard it was when Preston played it for me on the acoustic. What was that? A week ago?
it was after it was
Yeah,
right before we
so-
recorded episode 3. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a week ago, and I heard a glimpse of it on the acoustic, and then me and Scotty are hearing it for the first time, and I think of just how to groove that song, and I just looked at Scotty, and I was like, we're going to make this motherfucker slam,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
we're going to make people sick.
My neck hurts from headbanging to that song because you played it like 6 fucking times, and I'm just raging
Well,
the
we
whole
had
time.
to figure it out.
I know,
It
but I
was-
was still. Don't change the fact that I'm fucking losing my shit every time you're running through it.
No,
My neck hurts thanks to y'all. So appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
No, the coolest part, I think, of a glimpse into that, the coolest part about it is, honestly, to me, how able we're able to put something together as a band pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, because we've been playing together for so long, and that goes back to the conversation we had, what was that, last episode, where, like, you you joining the band was easily the best fit we could have imagined, because the four of us get in a room and we're just on the same fucking level.
And I think that you all challenge each other because of your backgrounds, like we touched on last week.
I pissed Scotty off.
Well, Scotty just wants to rage, bro. And I get that.
Scotty loves it when I piss him off, too, because I'll be like, hey, bro, do this weird thing.
Do this weird thing.
And he'll be like, fuck.
Yeah. But he does it. And Derek, I know you were feeling it because Scotty's a hell of a fucking drummer, dude. I mean, Scotty's
Beautiful.
legit.
I love it when he gets over there looking like a little monkey and
He goes nuts.
He goes nuts.
Just hands up above it like he's punching the ceiling and then slamming back down. It's gorgeous.
Bro, he broke
It
one
is
of his
beautiful.
sticks tonight,
And it
30
almost
seconds
went-
into the song, and flipped that bitch over and just kept going.
When you come in here, you need a hard hat, you need a cup, you need some Kevlar. If Scotty's back there on the drums, we're out
I
front
have
talking.
a welt, bro.
Yeah, we're out front talking. We said we need them plexiglass screens that the church uses.
Yeah. It's what he needs because he is in his own little world
Dude,
back
and
there.
you know what?
just
He would
losing
probably
his
love
shit.
it more. He would be the caged animal back there.
He
That's
is
what he
a
looks
caged
like.
animal.
He
Like
is.
some kind of
Yep.
Tasmanian devil or little monkey at the zoo.
I think that's the best kind of drummer, though, man. Is
It
that,
is.
Yeah.
like you said, caged animal. I guess to close out the practice portion of this, Derek, you haven't seen us play, and it's been a little bit, and we definitely haven't played
About a
any
year.
newer material for you. From what you heard, and I don't know if you were here by the time we played the new, just something we put together today. But in regards to the newer material, what'd you think?
I like it. A couple times you've sent me like little clips.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, love it, or add something here. But I really do like it. I like the direction that we're going. We're having some technical difficulties. Good.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I really like the direction you guys are taking it. Here's what I liked. I've been a faithful fan for the first 3 episodes, and when I hear you guys talk about the direction of the band, and then I get to see it,
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense.
oh shit,
Yeah.
you guys really are going for a slightly different sound that maybe you didn't have quite all the way. The older stuff. I still like the older stuff too.
Right. I mean, they played Sarcasm tonight. It sounds just as good as
And
it.
I want to touch on that
Go ahead.
real quick too, because I've listened to you guys talk about it. Like Preston joined the band, did this, did this, did this. That listening to it played tonight was for me when I was like, I see what they're talking about, because there was an extra layer to that song that's not on the recorded version. Because I listen to the Spotify Screaming Evidence, check them out.
Yes, sir.
Say is probably my favorite song.
Thank you.
But
by the way.
oh yeah, I love them. I love you guys. I like coming to the show. I'm biased. I'm going to say it now, but
That's
I'm gonna.
completely
I
okay.
gotta hit 2 points before I get out of this thought. One, every show I go to, and I said this earlier, people will comment that your guys' original stuff is good. The other bands that are up there, not to talk specifics or talk bad about any other band because I can't do it, but their original stuff isn't what people are getting excited about. They're listening to the cover and they're like, yeah, these guys are awesome. They covered my favorite song. But what I hear other people say is like, I want to hear Screaming Evidence's original shit, or I'm going to go buy their CD. You know, that's what I like. But the extra layer that was there in Sarcasm when we listened to it tonight that I didn't hear before, I was like, oh, I get it.
So-
I see the extra layer. And what it did is Preston takes responsibility away from the other guys in the band that 3-piece just wasn't getting done. Or not wasn't getting done, but it adds a new layer to be more interesting, to have more depth to the song that wasn't there before.
And it's not just sarcasm, right?
Yeah,
and
it's
it's,
every
I mean,
song.
you know, you guys play Attention Freak almost every show, and that was, for the longest time, my favorite song of your guys' was Attention Freak. And it sounds completely, if you go listen to Head Up Along the Way, you know, the first album, and listen to some of those songs, you're like, wow, these are awesome. And then you go listen to them live, it is completely different because, again, and boy, we're sucking Preston off hard
Yeah,
this episode.
y'all need to stop saying my name.
Yeah.
You know,
See,
Preston-
that's the thing. I
Put me
didn't
on a
realize
damn
how
pedestal.
good Sean and Tyler and Scotty were until Preston took some of the pressure off of them.
because
And then they get to, because I don't think I've ever really heard Sean shred like he did tonight. Like,
Yes.
I never focused on it when I was at the previous shows, because now it's like he got to open up a little bit more. And I've always watched Tyler play the bass because he gets a little stink face on, a little emotional, gets you excited. Same way with Scotty.
Yep.
But tonight I was like, I see the chemistry in a way that I haven't got to see before, and it's because of the stuff you guys have talked about on the previous episodes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we're not here to bullshit. I mean, we tell it like it is on this pod. So
like, to speak on that a little bit, when we produced Head Up Along the Way, I was doing the guitar and the bass. I did a few backup vocals, but pretty much all the vocals were Sean. So he had to think about, what can I do vocally by myself, even live with these songs, because we don't want to, we don't want to write something and put it out there that we can't do live. So we were limited vocally there. With the bass, I knew I wasn't going to be playing bass for long because we were actively looking for a bass player, and we had a guy that I was teaching on the side, but in the meantime, I had to record the bass stuff. But again, I didn't want to put something in there that this next guy couldn't play live, so I didn't do much creatively with the bass. And then guitar-wise, dude, I had barely played much guitar over the previous 3 years because I was in the Navy, and most of it was Sean and then myself and our producer Tony kind of working through and creating a few leads just to add some layers to it. So we were really fucking limited on what we could do as a three-piece, and imagine, okay, can we actually execute this on stage with what we have? And then with that next recording, you got to see us get a little more creative with things, but we really didn't hit the nail on the head yet.
No, not at all.
And the next time, the next round of songs that we were getting ready to record, which was held up from COVID, that next batch was even a next step on the creativity level. And then now this next round of songs we've been working on is just absolutely fucking insane.
they're incredible.
And I think the word that Derek had used really quick, depth. I think that is a big piece as to what we've added, especially with
You and I listened to some trippy shit, though.
Yeah. But, no, really, I think something about the word depth, that kind of hit me, that feels like that's what's been added as of late.
Not to foreshadow too much or to spoiler alert here,
Don't
but
spoil us, bro.
I am a big Tool fan. So
we do not.
So
We're not Tool.
I know, but the bass heavy stuff I heard today, the new bass heavy stuff that wasn't there before, or maybe it was partially there before, and that depth factor. I mean, that's something you only get from sitting down and hammering it out and trying it again and Preston getting to take a little time to add something, his own flavor. Sean getting to add his own flavor. Tyler getting to add his own flavor. Scotty back there breaking drumsticks. I mean, that's
what it does, man.
It makes it, if you're like me, you beat the fuck out of your favorite song at that time.
Oh, yeah, you've been that bitch over.
Repeat.
Yep.
Those songs that last longer are the ones with that depth for me.
Yeah.
Like that each time I can pick out a new thing
Something
that I didn't
different.
notice before.
Each time you listen to it, you hear something new.
It's fun for me because little brag, I guess, I can play some Screaming Evidence songs because
you can.
It's
a lot of them are extremely hard, though.
so now he's shit on my
No,
talent.
Humble brag.
That did
He
come
said
out
that's not a
completely
hard
wrong.
bar to
I meant it as don't give us compliments in regards to the riffs.
And definitely don't give me compliments because apparently I'm a really shitty guitarist.
I'm an asshole.
So it's fun for me because
shit, Preston.
anytime
I'm a horrible friend.
it's all good. I've been dealing with it for a long fucking time, bro. So anytime a song comes on, especially these guys, I'm like, yep, I fucking was, especially the new stuff off Inhibitions. I'm like, yep, I was there when that one was written. I was there when that one was finished. I helped add something to that when you sent me something. Say, all right, well, how about this? You know, just like Derek, you were talking about, because we could take a little bragging rights because we've helped in some of this process. What if you did this?
What if you went in and in it here when you were chugga?
Don't noodle so much when you need to chugga. Okay?
Yeah,
So
give me a gun.
I want fucking metalcore.
That's metal as fuck.
So
that's the extent of my contribution.
So it's so fun for
I
me.
feel like a piece of shit.
Do that
also.
little diddly thing.
It's so fun for me because I get the behind the scenes shit, and it's and these guys are my best friends, and I get to support them along this path they're going down. And Derek, you touched on something a few minutes ago that is huge in the fact of that when they added Preston, everybody else got that weight taken off of them, and they were able to express themselves more. Tyler didn't have to do as much. Sean didn't have to do as much. Scotty just keeps on raging, and it was they were able to kind of let themselves shine a bit. Sean can fucking shred.
Hell yeah, he can.
And he is one of the best songwriters.
Yep.
I'm telling you what, I would put Sean's songwriting and music craft against just about anybody out there.
You know what's
And
really cool?
Tyler, you too, baby. I mean, I got you.
What's really cool to me is that we're in Fayette County, Washington Courthouse, Bloomingburg.
He said Washington
Jeffersonville.
Courthouse.
That's how you got to say it.
We told you we're from the
That's
fucking
how you
sticks.
say it.
That's how I say it like that on purpose, but
Well, that's because it's where we're
it's
from.
it's cool to me to think that like Tyler and Sean have been right down the road my whole life.
Yep.
And they're in this garage writing these songs that the first time I heard, I'm like, oh shit, they're good.
That's good. That and you get it. Like you feel the songs, you feel the lyrics, you feel the music. And Derek, you and I are sitting here during practice, picking around on an acoustic, and then immediately stopping when they start playing because it's time to pay attention. It's time to headbang.
Yeah.
And that kind of music that draws you in. And anybody that was hanging out with us on TikTok Live, giving these guys compliments, thank you so fucking much, because that means
you a lot.
That means a ton to these guys. That means a ton to us as their friends and their supporters. And I've had so many people reach out to me, especially over the past week since episode 2 and 3 both dropped, say, man, I went and listened to these guys and they fucking jam. Thank you so much for that, because this podcast is not just to make everyone feel like they're a part of the Metal Brotherhood, but it's also to show the world how fucking incredible these guys are at songwriting and music craft and putting together songs that you can feel emotionally. So thank you so much to everybody that has given us a lot of positive interaction on the band.
Absolutely.
So.
Anything else to add?
You guys
to
have
that
anything
piece?
else to add on the practice piece?
I got nothing else to add, man. I
when you guys-
appreciate the feedback on TikTok. I appreciate the feedback from you two. We used to have people out at practice all the time, and we haven't done that much in years.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool to have you guys out, and I appreciate the feedback.
When's the band playing next?
April 15th.
April 15th. Where at?
Yeah, Tyler, why don't you plug the show here a little bit? We got a lot of Ohio listeners, so let's plug that show.
So
And talk
April
about
15th, it is a benefit show for a local musician, and this is put together by my dad and some other
who's also a musician.
Yeah, some local supporters of local music, and I don't know the people's names in particular because I don't remember anybody's names.
You talking bands or the
No,
family?
so it was like fans saying, "Hey, you local artists support so much in the community with benefit shows and charity events and all this stuff, but no one really supports you guys." And there's a local musician that was really big on doing charity events and doing benefit shows, and he passed away. Not going to get into the details as to how, but he passed away, and so they're wanting to do a benefit show for his family and to help support local artists, and it's something they're wanting to do every year. That asked us to play, and I was like, cool, let's do it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time, and we're going to come out as a podcast, and we'll probably record a live episode before the show, and hopefully we can interview some bands that are going to be playing that night, and just kind of have a good time. So be looking forward to that, around that April 15th timeline. So, again, this podcast, we created this for several reasons. And one of the biggest ones is being to support local music, right? To support those up and comers that are grinding their ass off and working to get their music out there and show their creativity and their talent. So that's a huge part of what this podcast is. And that's a big part of what, this benefit show is going to be about, is supporting those local artists and trying to give a little bit back to them, because guys like you guys give a shit ton to the community, and Fayette County and Southern Ohio is so thankful to you guys and bands like you. So I'm looking forward to that show. I can't wait for it. It's going to be a damn good time. There's going to be some great bands out there. High Alert, Crank, Screaming Evidence. It's going to be a fucking awesome night. So
where's it at?
If you're in, it's out on Harmony Road.
Okay.
If you're in Southern Ohio or in Ohio or Kentucky or wherever, and y'all want to come out to a good ass rock and metal show, let me know, and we'll get you the details on that. And also, I do want to say, in the essence of my TikTok no longer being just a personal TikTok, I changed my TikTok handle to reflect that. So I'm no longer at Smoke 2013. I am at TSIS Podcast. So give me a follow on TikTok. Give us a follow on TikTok, and come give us your feedback like you've been doing. So I just wanted to make sure I plugged that. So we've covered a lot there about the band and whatnot, and I want to go ahead and move forward. So, having Derek on the show as our first guest. First off, I hope you feel honored being the very first guest on the show.
I am extremely humble. I can't tell you how humbling this is. I feel like I kind of invited myself on, because I texted you and was like, this reminds me of like a couple years ago, we came to your apartment, me and you and Preston, drank bourbon, and just jammed.
We did.
And by the end of the night, we were listening to fucking Nutshell by Alice in Chains. And when you guys are talking about that on the second or third episode, I was like, this is bullshit. We had the same conversation 2 years ago.
And you're like, I need to be on this show.
Yeah. And so I texted you and I was like, dude, that was awesome. It reminds me of that night. And then I can't remember if it was the next day or soon thereafter. You were like, I want you on. And I was like, oh, shit.
It was the next morning. I told you, I'm like, we want you on.
I was like, dude, this is crazy.
So just a little background on Derek. Derek and Preston and I have been the best of friends for a long fucking time. And Derek, moved to our school when we were in like 8th grade. And Derek came from a school that, wasn't full of a bunch of people that kind of fit his mold, right? The metalheads, he didn't have that a lot where he was coming from. And I'll never forget, the first day of football practice, you walk into the locker room and we're blaring, OG metalcore, some fucking Kill Switch or something. You're like, yep, these are my fucking people.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's where we'll start, I think, with my musical journey. Okay.
And that's what we want to cover is because full disclosure, Derek is a musician too. Derek plays guitar, so we got 4 musicians sitting right here, so we're gonna have a good fucking time tonight. Derek,
of all the musicians that I know, and I'm definitely the least talented. So let's start there.
Don't discredit yourself.
Don't discredit him. He is not. He's a way better acoustic guitar player than I am. So
I had to think about long and hard where. That's what she said. Where I would start this
this
story.
guy's got jokes.
So
That's metal as fuck.
That's metal as fuck.
So, and you guys kind of know my background, but in order, I think
people need to know your
in
background.
order to understand my musical journey, I think it's also important to understand my journey, kind of as a person. So.
I'm immediately intrigued.
Yeah,
heard?
Same.
So that everyone else knows, I am not familiar.
Yeah.
With the story about to be told. I've met you a few times at shows, and I believe I talked to you once on Facebook about coming to your house and chopping down some wood. Like
I need to get you out.
Some men.
Yep.
Because there is nothing better than splitting fucking wood.
I mean, it's the most manly thing
it is
you
the
can do.
greatest thing in the fucking world.
Yeah.
Continue.
But I'm really interested in hearing the story.
Because I don't want to get too deep into my background, but to be as brief as I possibly can. As a young kid, early on, I was one of those kids, like most people probably listening to this, who was angry and frustrated at the situation that they found themselves in. Whether it's, financial or your parents or your friends or your peers or all those things combined together. And the one, for some reason, it was like I was born with it, but that mentality that you've heard, that like, be the hero of your own story, like you're watching the movie or the book, and you're the hero. Okay, so at the same time, I realized very early on that if I wanted to do better for myself, it was going to be like moving a mountain.
Yeah.
So I was always extremely motivated, and I knew no matter what that, you know, I could elevate myself out of my situation to you know, reach new heights that weren't available for a lot of people that I grew up with or grew up around. And I had a lot of people in my corner to help me do that, but I was still angry and unsatisfied. And as I get older, I realize that for a lot of the wrong reasons.
Teenage angst.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
We all
probably,
had it. Every metalhead had it.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure so many people in the metal community had probably not the greatest relationship with their parents maybe as a kid.
It sure sounds
Or
like it in the music.
Yeah, or at least one of them.
Yeah.
I
And
fucking hate my mom.
yeah. And that
kidding,
was
Mom, I
and
love
that
you.
was me, and for zero reason whatsoever. Like, as I get older, I'm like, I was such a dick, you know. That being said, every good story, if you're the hero of your story, every good story, every good movie has a soundtrack. And the soundtrack to
Oh my!
the soundtrack to my
This
success.
motherfucker was nervous
Listen.
about coming on the pod, and he's a fucking
Dropping
natural.
knowledge
Let's go. Jesus.
The soundtrack to my success was metal.
That's
Now,
metal
I love
as
it.
fuck.
That is the most
listen.
metal thing I've ever fucking heard.
I was so nervous about sharing this story. I should talk to my wife about it, and she's like, "Yeah, that's kind of cool."
Love it.
I just talked to my mom about it, and my mom was like, 100%. She was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think for me, now let's kind of fast forward. I knew that if I want to go to college, that I had to get a scholarship. So I want to play football. I played football, and I'll train 24/7 so that I could get a scholarship and go to college. I want to go to law school. I had no idea what that involved. And that whole time, all that training, all that time, there was an anthem. There was an anthem, there was a soundtrack, and metal provided the affirmation and the strength to make it through. And that's kind of the thing my mom added to it when I was talking to her about it just briefly, was that the music that I listen to helps you make it through.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's so many times where I'm sure a lot of listeners have almost fallen off the wagon. The type of music we listen to, think about how many people commit suicide or harm themselves or harm other people.
Yep.
This music is what helps us get through those feelings.
Yeah, bro.
So
we are a half an hour in, and we're getting this deep, man.
So let's talk about the anthems and the soundtracks that fueled my journey.
Love it. Let's hear it.
Let's hear it, bro.
I was my music was always kind of important in our house. I don't want to say important, but always around. You know, my sister is.
I was gonna say, I feel like you grew up in a
musically
really
talented.
musical family.
You
My
had
sister
to
can
because
play-
the ear you already had
Yeah.
for it. I could tell.
My sister can play 3 or 4 instruments, and she taught herself how to play most of them, and she is great. She can sing. My brother can sing. My mom had singing lessons, music, and what we listened to, and this was back before all the controversy, but we were introduced to Michael Jackson very early. Okay,
Beautiful.
I love
huge
Michael
Michael
One of
Jackson.
the most talented people of all
Absolutely.
time.
Now, what's even more ironic is that the guy I didn't have the greatest relationship as a little kid. My
With his
dad,
dad,
we
yeah.
kind of butted heads a little bit, but now we're best friends. And part of it is because he was a metalhead. So he is big, like Ozzy, Sabbath.
Yep.
That was that
OG
progressive
metal.
like
Yeah.
stuff. He was all about that. And I remember one bonding moment. We're in the car driving on 38. I remember it, and I can see the hill we're driving over, and we're listening to an Ozzy song, and he's belting it out, and he's slows down, turns the volume down, and he looks over at me, and I'm definitely not old enough to know what the hell he's about to say. And he goes, "What the hell was Ozzy smoking when he wrote that song?" And then just cranks it back up, and I'm just like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
I'm fucking 8 years old. Man.
I'm fucking
8 years old, man.
Yeah, but like, there's no denying that we had the same taste in music, you know, because I love Ozzy, I love Zeppelin, I love all those like old metal bands that, you know, I'm not a big hair band fan.
Sure.
And I'll get into that a little bit later, but so music was always around in our house. You know, we always listened to rock was always played. I'm the youngest of my generation on my mom's side of the family, and they were all in high school in the 90s. So every family function was grunge music.
Yep.
Oh,
Alice in Chains.
Tyler's.
Yep.
Tyler's.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Post grunge stuff. I can see the cousins in the garage playing grunge music.
Yeah.
You know, and my brother and sister are 4 years older than me, so that grunge, post grunge stuff was always played around us.
For sure.
And I remember the first like real new rock CD we ever got, and it was just as I'm starting to kind of branch away from the more pop stuff that my mom would listen to, and it was Drowning Pool, Center.
Oh,
Woo!
what a fucking OG
fucking
metal
album,
album,
my
dude.
God.
Oh my God.
Drowning Pool, Center. And then
Everybody listening, you need to go back and re-listen
go back.
to Center.
It's timeless.
If you
Timeless
got
classics.
any shit to talk about that album,
We'll fight.
Yeah.
We'll fight.
What's it, Addy?
Dude, and
We'll
it is up and down. A complete album.
We had that on CD in the locker room, bro.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I will fight a mountain over that song.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude.
Oh, for that album. It's a no
Or
skip
that
album.
Sorry.
Yeah. Raise
Yes.
your hand if you're a sinner, okay? Yeah. Oh, guilty.
Yeah, a little foreshadowing there. Oh,
This is the last one.
now I want to go listen to fucking Center. Yes.
So then I heard the radio station be brought up, but at that point in time, the only rock
We had
well,
one.
No, that's not true.
Well, no, we had
Where
two.
I lived,
we had
you can pick up
96.3 too, but it was like
Well,
classic
there's
rock.
that. But 103.9X out of Dayton.
Ooh, okay.
Remember that?
I do not.
Yeah. No,
you
I
could pick
do.
it up in certain spots.
I could get it in my old 92 Ford.
Yeah. It's like you had to be driving out of the zip code to pick it up when you're still in Cross. But if you were going across the turn on, you wouldn't be getting it. They had the X Fest shows back in the day out
Yes.
there.
Okay.
Yes.
So
it was classic
But
rock kind of shit.
all you
Eagles,
had-
shit like that.
Well, all you had in our area was 99.7 The
99.7.
Blitz.
Yep, that was
So
it.
that's all you listened to. And
Do you
it
remember
was,
when it went to the rock for a minute and it
that
was
sucked
really bad?
Yeah.
so bad?
They went from metal to
That-
classic rock and it was
I
like,
quit listening to it
Yeah.
for a long
It was
time.
horrible.
And then
Yeah,
they
it was
came
bad.
back, and
They
it
came
was like,
back.
thank God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you
But
for metal music.
this was pre-internet. Like,
was.
I mean, well, internet was around, but like
It was
Yeah.
pre-smartphones. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
pre-social
so
media.
the
It
only
was-
music that we were really exposed to was what was on 99.7 The Blitz.
Yep.
So then when I'm in like middle school and elementary school, and I'm like I like rock music and I like metal music. Where I grew up, before I moved to Washington Courthouse, Miami Trace, Fayette County, there were no other kids really, but one or two
Yeah.
who listened to the same new rock, new metal, what some people might refer to as butt rock.
Yeah.
Dad rock, divorced
Love-
dad
We
rock.
I love
mentioned
butt
it
rock.
before on the show. Yep.
I'm a big butt rock guy.
Aren't we all? If you're not, you're fucking lying. You're a
99.7
liar, and
The
I'm
Blitz.
calling you
We
one.
play nothing but rock.
Nothing but rock.
Here's
So-
Imagine Dragons.
Enjoy some Coldplay.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
That is.
That is exactly what happened.
Well,
We play the
I can
heaviest
think-
shit you've ever heard.
Here's Coldplay.
Fucking
can
Yellow
think-
comes on and I start crying.
Enjoy some Train.
Go ahead, Derek. I'm
I
sorry.
could think of one guy who listened to like Disturbed
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Five Finger Death Punch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Just,
Breaking
you're talking
Benjamin.
from where you
yeah,
came from. Before
and
you
this
came
is
to
like
us.
this. You got to understand, this is like 2005 to 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I think we were freshmen around 2009.
We were freshmen in 2000. Yeah.
So-
you came to Courthouse in the summer of 2000.
Yeah. So there was like a particular amount of angst that I had already,
Mm-hmm.
and then being like the only what I would consider like kind of metalhead or one of two, you know, you're already kind of feeling a little outcasted in
Yeah.
comparison, or like it just fuels those reasons you like the metal already. Like everyone else is fucked up, or the world around me is screwed up or broken, and I need to fix it, or I need to reflect on it, or like this music helps me understand that feeling where I feel like maybe things around me aren't right or screwed up, or these people are wrong, or I don't fit in.
It
Those
helps
kind of
express those feelings you have trouble expressing.
Exactly.
I think that's what drew a lot of us to this genre of music, right? Because it was the angst that a lot of, and I think that's why bands like Nirvana, for example, were so popular, is because so many people could relate to the angst and the. I think, Derek, you just said it, the feeling of not fitting in. Everybody is different than me.
Yep.
I am pissed off at the world, or whatever the emotion might be.
Yeah.
You were able to let that go and express that through listening to this genre of music.
Yeah.
And
for me, it probably didn't even look like that on the outside. Like it probably didn't look like I had that kind of thought going through my head, because I was like the jock. You know? Like I think that's how people looked at me. And I did.
Bro, we've seen you in the weight room.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did okay in school. I was, played sports. But I feel like I identified more with somebody who would wear the metalcore band shirt to school. And I hope that those people looked at me as like, oh, this is one of our boys too. Maybe not. I don't know.
We did as fellow as teammates, right? And because we talked about this before the show. When we were coming up through school and playing football and all that, we were vastly, if you polled the team, 75 to 80% of the team were a bunch of metalheads, right?
And here's why I think metal in particular is not as refined. If I listen to a really refined metal song, there's almost something that turns me off to it.
Sure.
The grittiness is what makes it
Raw.
makes
I
it
like this
powerful
guy.
for me. Okay?
Norma Jean, bro.
Yeah. I live in Dayton. Dayton is the grittiest city in Ohio, I
Yes,
think.
it is.
100%.
And I love it.
Not in a bad way either. There's
In-
much worse.
Well,
It's in a bad way.
It's
too.
in a bad way.
I
Cleveland
drive-
bad.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty bad.
Dude, Dayton's rough
But-
nowadays.
I know.
But there's
Yeah, go ahead.
there's something refreshing about that grittiness that I like, and that's
A little Detroit.
Fayette County.
Yeah.
It's
It is.
different from any, like, Washington
Yep.
Courthouse is different from a lot of small towns because there's a different level of gritty here, and for
Yep.
better or for worse.
Dude, if you go 20 to 25 minutes down the road to Hillsboro, there is not the metal scene, the rock scene that there is here.
No. Or
At
if you
all.
if you're up by me and you're in, like, Tip City or Troy or Greenville,
Yeah.
it's like, it's completely
You have to go to
different.
Cedarville to get to a metal scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
kinda,
just not
Something
not-
about, like, Washington Courthouse, Jeffersonville, Jamestown.
Fayette County in
There's
general.
a
man.
grittiness to it.
It's a
And
grit.
I think it's being poor country. Like
It's
when
fair.
you're and I'm sure that well, I'm a big like Childers fan, so
I think we all
Yeah,
are.
like,
Big
when
Tyler
you
Childers.
get-
when you get like that kind of more like honest bluegrass Appalachia music, there's the same level of grittiness that you find in rock music. There's a different amount of self-reflective sincerity that's just not there in other styles of music.
Mhm.
That's what attracts me to rock music and to metal, and that's why it was always the anthem behind the story
So awesome.
for me. So when I moved, at this point we've gotten through my new rock phase.
Mhm.
My favorite band at that point in time is Stained.
Yeah.
And it's the early
fuck
Stained.
yes.
It's early Stained.
Early Stained.
Fucking
Mud
mean
Shovel.
as shit.
Angry
Mud
Aaron
Shovel.
Lewis.
Oh my God, he was mad.
Angry Aaron Lewis. He's
And-
still mad. He's just mad at his fans now.
But Aaron Lewis is probably my favorite artist of all time, just because it was formational for me as like a young
He
kid.
encapsulated exactly how you felt.
Yeah, it was that whole early album with, I can't remember what the name of the album was, but with like Mud Shovel,
Dysfunction.
Dysfunction.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
those
god, that
songs-
motherfucking album was
It's
on
so
repeat
raw.
in my car.
It
So
was like,
raw.
it was like it
Such a
said
raw,
everything I wanted to say.
Unrefined, just pissed off.
Yeah.
Tyler, you relate to that thing.
I loved Stained.
Yeah.
But that album in particular is so close to the reason why you like Norma Jean.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
raw,
Yep.
piss the fuck off. type of
Stained
feeling.
is one of those bands that help me understand what the music industry will do to bands.
Yeah. Because when you look at their later albums,
Yeah, because it got to a point where
and I love
labels
that.
and stuff are pushing them to be more radio friendly.
More mainstream.
They were great at that as
And
well.
Yeah,
but-
don't get me wrong,
they were
it's-
amazing
yeah.
at that.
They killed it too, yeah.
But then Stained was one of the first bands out of that whole butt rock genre that went back
Put that
to being fucking
Yep.
heavy as shit.
that last album.
That last album they put out.
That was
You hear people
I
say,
know you
"Oh,
remember
it's
that."
like their
Yeah.
old stuff."
Yeah, I know
You
you,
know?
remember us
Exactly.
having that exact
Yep.
conversation. I mean, that was like what, junior, senior year of high school, maybe. When
Sounds
that came
about
out.
right. Yeah.
So that happened, and then Chevelle went back to being
Mean as
fucking
fuck.
heavy
Yep.
as shit. Their last couple of albums have just been.
So did Breaking Benjamin. And we
Yeah.
talked about
And
it
then
last
Breaking
week.
Benjamin
Ember,
came
bro.
around and put that last album out, and
Ember.
it was.
You can't take the metal out of
Filthy.
those boys.
No.
You
And
can't
so-
take it out of them.
So
It just proved that these bands were able to be dirty as fuck and heavy as
Yeah.
fuck and still succeed and essentially prove the industry wrong.
So it's all about being a chameleon, right? And I'm kind of in sales. You guys are in sales. You have to be a chameleon, right? You have to blend to your customer. Being a musician is no fucking different if you want to be successful in a way. And bands like Stained and Breaking Benjamin and Chevelle and I know
3
you-
Days Grace did it.
3 Days Grace did it.
Yep.
Three Doors Down did it. Get Pissed at Me If You Want. Godsmack did it.
Yeah.
Mudvayne did it. Puddle of Mud did it. A lot of those bands.
Mudvayne, early Mudvayne.
Early Mud. Jack! Yeah, right, mate. Yeah. So, a lot of those bands were able to be chameleons and blend to what would make them successful at that very point in time, but few of them.
Just so they
likes-
had the financial freedom of being able to go back to what they like.
You just led me right into my
Oh,
point. No,
I'm a dickhead
thank you.
this
No.
episode.
You led me to the point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Preston's like, I'm gonna put the words in your mouth.
I feel like
Because you had
I
bands
feel
like
what you feel. You
you
know what I
had
mean?
bands like
Yeah.
Stained and Breaking Benjamin and Chevelle. They were able to go back to their original sound and be like, we are a fucking metal band and we're going to
Yep.
rip your face off
Yeah.
and make great, raw, angry music again 12 years later.
I think at one point in time, Stained or somebody put a YouTube video together or something about how like people would go to Stained concerts and expect to hear all the like lovey-dovey radio songs, and then they would play like
Mud Shovel.
And
Yeah.
you're like, who the fuck are these guys?
Yep.
It's a metal
Like,
band.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I heard you on 97.1.
I want to hear It's Been a While.
Yeah.
Somebody
I
please-
fucking love that
Hey,
song.
I like
it's a
it.
damn
I like
great
it.
song.
It is really hard to play and sing.
It's
Hey,
also
I
not
would
Mud
I would
Shovel.
trade every
That is
single
true.
song like that though for another round of that
Dysfunction.
Dysfunction.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we kind of did
Because you're a
we didn't
metalhead.
trade it. We just had to suffer through.
You're
it.
not the average 28-year-old white girl that is listening to a Stained album going,
Yeah, if I want to
Oh
listen
my
to Taylor
God.
Swift, I'll get a Taylor Swift album. Aaron, play some fucking metal.
Right.
I don't know. Shades of Grey was.
Shades of
was
Grey was
really
what was
good.
it? 13
Yeah.
Shades of Grey or
Yep.
just Shades of Grey?
No,
think
Shades of
Shades
Grey.
of Grey. Just,
Okay,
You're thinking
yeah.
of 12 Shades.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
BDSM
that album.
This couch
Dude,
is looking
listen,
a lot
I'm
different.
going to tell an embarrassing story, not music related.
We're rambling. We're rambling.
When I was like, I don't know, 17, my dumbass thought BDSM stood for Big Dick, Small Mouth. Continue on to the music.
I can just imagine
I'm
the
sorry,
look on
Mom.
your face.
I was like, what the fuck
When you
is
type that into
BDSM? Is that
Pornhub.
Big Dick, Small Mouth, bro?
Damn it.
This dude looking on Pornhub trying to find some tiny mouse to make his dick look big.
Well, this podcast just took a different direction.
It did. So, but anyway, so
Anyway.
that quote unquote butt rock
The butt rock.
was the bridge for a lot of us from the grunge and post-grunge era or post-hardcore era, like Pantera, shit like that, to metalcore, right?
Yeah.
There was so much of that. So the first,
So for me, it was a geographical problem. Like when I moved to Miami Trace, And we were talking about this earlier. When I moved here, I walk into the locker room, and it was the second time I'd ever heard a Kill Switch Engage song.
Beautiful.
Or we're playing A Day to Remember.
Yeah.
And that became one of my
Crapcore.
favorite bands ever. And
Mm-hmm.
You felt you felt at home.
one
right?
of the oh my gosh, I couldn't tell you how many bands. It was like immediate, and I was like, these are my people.
What was that song? I think it was by a band called Underdog. It was
I know what you're talking about. I can't
Oh,
think of it either.
you're not thinking of a 12 Stone song. I know.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
it's a
12
12 Stone
Stones.
song off
Okay.
the album Underdog.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline.
Yeah.
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 That was like our walkout song
that would
on
be
Friday
like,
nights,
now,
bro.
now a
Of course,
band
it was
like 12
amazing.
Stones would be the furthest you could get away from the radio back like
In 2009.
yeah, it'd be like that. That's as far as I could venture out.
12 Stones
Yeah.
wasn't on the radio,
Yeah.
bro.
No, they weren't. 12 Stones, like Evans Blue.
But
those
Rise
guys weren't.
Against was, which is
Bro,
weird
I am
because bands-
so glad you mentioned Evans Blue because that album, what is it? Something. The cover is
I
like
know what
a
you're
saying.
Changing
I can't
Butterfly album.
Preston,
Yeah.
Preston has his phone.
That
Look it up.
album was amazing.
Well,
But you wouldn't hear it on the
was
radio.
Amazing.
no, it was awesome.
that
That's
was
the
the shit
thing.
I was
I'll tell
listening
you
to
what,
back
And when
then.
we were in high school, right,
Yeah.
we were, and I know that the constant stereotype of metalheads and rock fans is rebellious, right? And I don't know that we were trying to be rebellious. It's just that
Yeah.
we didn't give a fuck about what was on the radio at that time. Like, we were just jamming shit that we could relate to that let us express our teenage angst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And bands like that, like 12 Stones, like Drowning Pool, like even Linkin Park, like
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff I was listening to.
yeah, dude, you were
We were
jamming
too.
that shit.
And
We were
Smile,
too.
Smile, Empty
Smile
Soul.
Empty Soul.
Yes. Amazing.
Oh,
But
Bro,
here's-
we were
man.
Here's
jamming
what
shit like
happened.
Incubus back then.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Here's what happened for me, is that I come and I'm introduced, like it's like I get hit by this truck of metal and metalcore by these crazy kids, these random crazy kids with
Yep.
fucking tattoos when they're 12 years old, and everybody's nuts. The whole place is dipping, and
Yeah.
Remember the dip shoe?
Oh my god, disgusting. But what it did for me was, one, give me a community that I didn't have before. And that's why I like this podcast. We'll come back to that segment. But it gave me a community of friends I didn't have before that I could share my music with, that I would never go over to my buddy's house and be like, bro, dude, check out this new
Yeah.
Alter Bridge song, or check out this new A Day
Yep.
to Remember song. They'd be like, shut that off and play whatever
Country music
bullshit's
or
on the radio.
Yeah.
And it was like every day I could rely on Preston or Kyler or freaking Hoover introduce
Yep.
me to the crabcore stuff.
Crab-
Crabcore, bro. Hell
was
yeah.
big
Attack,
into
attack,
it.
my guy.
And Trey and all
Yep.
of our buddies, like we would be like, oh dude, check this out, check this out, check
I
this
gotta
out.
get some skinny jeans. Now.
Oh dude.
Yeah, you need
And-
some Chuck Taylors and some skinny.
Well,
jeans, bro.
Derek has a way with words, and he'll make you feel that
Yeah.
way. So.
Well,
Full disclosure, he's a fucking lawyer, so that's why he. And we'll get into that in a bit. But
so yeah, we'll get there. But the evolution of music that I feel like we had between like 2009 to 2013 was wild.
it was huge. It was
Because-
so
Mhm.
big.
It went, and we kind of touched on this just in conversation earlier, but it went from like this radio friendly American metalcore that we knew, like you would hear Kill Switch on the radio sometimes. Five Finger was still
Yep.
Five Finger.
Heavy. They were so heavy
Like
back then.
it wasn't just Ivan Moody writing songs about being a sellout and
Yep.
being angry about it. Like it was real songs like
Way of the
that.
Fist.
Way
is
of the
what we were
Fist.
listening
Yeah.
to. dude.
Yep.
All That Remains was always great, and they had some awesome albums come out during
Oh my
that time.
God, we were
Absolutely.
the Fall of Ideals
Oh,
and
man.
Overcome.
That was the first
Overcome.
concert.
Overcome.
The first concert Preston
We ever
to.
went
at the
to.
fucking
Yeah.
Newport.
in Columbus.
music hall.
Yep.
So
Those- I'll
yeah,
never
because you
forget that.
had the Fall of Ideals and Overcome come out between 2006 and 2008
Yeah.
or
Yep.
2009,
And
and
they played
I mean,
every song for $20. They
Yeah.
played every song on
Yep.
their set list.
But-
It was inspiring.
but the thing is we could bounce from because it all created the same feeling, right? If you heard a Linkin Park song or a Disturbed song and then you went straight to something off like 6 from the Fall of
Yeah.
Ideals
Yeah.
or,
Yep.
or 2 weeks off of Overcome, like you felt the same emotions. Oh my God.
Rest in peace, Ollie.
Rest in peace, Ollie. Oh
Yep.
man, yeah. Rest in peace.
But
R.I.P. Ollie. R.I.P. Chester too.
Dude,
Linkin Park.
for me, it was music in the gym. That's really, it was music in the gym and then music to jam in the Jeep on the way home, still angry.
Yeah.
The Pine Green Jeep Cherokee
Dude,
that
it's
we
still
literally had so many fucking good
Oh,
times.
my
It's still
goodness.
going. It's probably got 300,000 miles on it.
Dude, that thing. You remember when we put a snorkel kit on that, and we tinted the windows on it ourselves? You remember that?
No.
Yeah. Well, I know why you don't remember that, but we won't talk about that on the pod. There's a reason Derek doesn't remember that.
I remember one time, I can't remember who was with us, but a buddy of ours named Jake pulled a tall parking cone through the window, and that parking cone is still in my parents' shed.
Shout out, Jake
Oh,
Cole.
my God.
Shout out, Jake Cole. We got to get in touch. We ought to get him as a fucking guest.
Then
on here.
one time, I remember it being like a either Thursday or Friday night before a football game, and I swear to God, half the football team was in that Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
And we unloaded at like a Giovanni's Pizza or something, and it was like
It was
40
usually
people.
Giovanni's or Burger King.
Burger King.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, back to your original
Yeah.
point in
So
regards to
it was
20 what years?
yeah,
20,
it
like
was
08, 09
Yeah,
through
that
13.
was the best music to train to, and
It
that's
was.
all I
Absolutely.
did. That's all I did.
Because all those OG metalcore bands
Yeah.
of Mice and Men, We Came as Romans, Memphis Mayfire, they were all, I mean, Challenger. What was the We Came as Romans album?
Understanding what we've grown to be, or maybe it was before
those
that.
to plant a seed.
To
and
Plant a
understanding
Seed,
what we're
yeah.
gonna be.
And then of Mice and Men was dropping their shit that was just
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. So you had some of the best and most influential metalcore albums dropping at that time.
And a big change from what it was before.
It
Yeah.
was, because you went from that 578 crabcore to multi-dimensional metalcore, right? So we were growing,
There are We Came as Roman songs that could transport you to another dimension,
especially off to Plant
Yep.
a Seed.
Like and for
Tyler, you
me,
can probably attest to that.
I beat some of those songs so bad to death in the gym that if I listen to certain All That Remains or We Came as Roman
Yep.
songs, I get sick to my stomach because it reminds me of
Yep.
all those fucking like medicine ball throwing, deadlift and power cleaning workouts.
PR days.
Yeah, that I would try to kill myself just to get to that next level. But it was always that anthem.
Full
Yeah.
disclosure, when Derek moved to our school, we were slightly afraid of him because he was a lot bigger than us and was yelling when he was lifting.
Yeah.
He would walk up to the weight rack and go, yeah, yes, yeah. And there's some fucking heavy metal playing, and
Metal as fuck.
and he's
Long
fucking
hair back
clean.
then.
Oh yeah, long hair, and which I mean, I had long hair too, but
Yeah.
not as long as Derek's. And Derek was just raging, and he was like a foot taller than all of us at that time. And I'm like,
2 foot tall.
I don't want to fuck with this dude because one, he's a metalhead like us, but two, he's like twice our size. So I'm just going to go ahead and take her easy.
But that music is what motivated me through all of the challenges. And then, if you're a real metal fan, you'll understand what you guys talked about on the podcast last time. Heavy is a feeling, not
Yep.
a sound.
Shout out Tyler.
So I
because
can't
that was
tell you-
the best
Yeah.
heavy metal hot take we've
I
had.
can't tell you
Absolutely.
how many times like I had a bad day as a kid, or maybe things aren't going the way, or maybe I'm growing impatient because things just don't move fast enough. You know, you can't pull yourself out of your situation fast enough. And those metal songs I can still hear with the windows down in the Jeep on the way home, not wanting to go home or not wanting to, do whatever,
Yep.
and still getting me through that day.
Yep.
So then, I leave you guys and go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole nother level of metalheads out there
Yep.
because I'm with guys from all across the country. And it was the first time I ever met a black guy who liked metal.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? First of all, there's like, it's just not, it's not common.
It's not as common.
And to not be like that guy, but there needs to be a little more diversity in metal. I
there
think.
does. And,
Yep.
and I'll tell you
Even though
why.
there's
And
a
I
ton
think it's
already.
cultural.
Listen,
it's
like,
cultural. It's a stigma
Preston
towards
and I
metalheads.
especially have gotten into a lot black, like African American frontmen, like vocalists in metal are some of the fucking filthiest dudes
Absolute-
out there.
oh,
You guys
hell
just
yes.
listened to an awesome one recently.
Yeah.
Fire from the Gods is one
Yep.
of my and AJ from Fire from the Gods. We just saw them in concert, by the way. But like, especially AJ for me because he incorporates rap
Yes.
into a lot of what they do, and not many of them. I'm not saying they all do, but AJ does. Like he incorporates hip hop into metalcore,
Yeah.
And it is so fucking awesome because I know that the three of us, me, Tyler, and Preston sitting here,
It's
and
a
I
different
think, Derek,
level.
you probably
Oh,
agree
yeah.
too.
I love those guys.
Any kind of hip-hop and metal is fucking sweet.
It's pretty damn
Sean does some of that shit.
So,
Where you'll incorporate
do you guys
the mom
listen
song.
to
the mommy song.
Well, when you guys were talking about Limp Bizkit the other week,
Yep.
and I was getting real
Yeah, a
turned
couple
up
weeks
about
ago,
Limp
yeah.
Bizkit, by the way.
Dude,
So,
Limp Bizkit's legit. Go ahead.
I
Tyler.
never really listened to Fire from the Gods. But like, do you guys listen to like Non-Point or Seven Dust?
Love
Seven
Dust.
Dust.
Yep.
Who doesn't? If you listen,
That's another one of those
if you're an
bands back in the
OG
day that
fucking-
weren't on the
dude,
radio.
they
If
They
you're
should
an
have been.
OG
Nope.
fucking metalhead from the early
Yeah.
2000s, you banged Seven Dust.
Yep.
Yeah, they should have been on the radio.
Shout
but they
out my
weren't.
cousin Dustin because my cousin Dustin got me into Seven Dust. Straight up. And Godsmack. And
I like
all those-
Non-Point a little more than I like Seven Dust, but Seven Dust
You have to help me out
really,
with that one because I'm not nearly as familiar with Non-Point.
You know who Non-Point is.
I know
You've
who
heard
they
them.
are.
They have the
but I'm
one
not as
song
familiar
Bad
as
Day
Seven
that
Dust.
Yeah. I know
just
what you're talking about.
man.
Well, something interesting happened to us when we're in high school too, and that's the advent of like music on the internet that you can stream 24/7. You don't have to buy songs anymore all the time.
Because we were
You
buying
can
fucking
shuffle stuff.
Yeah,
we
iTunes
would buy
cards,
whole
bro.
CDs or iTunes cards or whatever.
All we ever listened to was CDs. Derek, you personally burnt me like 15 fucking CDs, bro.
Yeah, I remember
Like you
that.
were my personal CD burner. You would make me mixtapes. I would be like, bro, I want this, and this, and you would go and burn me a CD and have it like within the week, and I'm like, this is the epitome of technology.
Dude, I had all kinds of CDs burnt throughout the years. Like, it would always be stuff to throw in the gym locker room.
Derek was the OG CD burner because when we were in the locker room, we had a big ass stereo system.
You know how
right?
I do it though? We got CDs from the library all the time.
How many people listen to the show do you think have burnt CDs or listen to burnt CDs? We reach a crowd that is closer to our generation that's right around that age of 26 to 30. And I feel like most of our generation grew up on burnt CDs.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have forgotten where we started.
Absolutely. I've
Like,
said
we'll
that
get-
a million
I'll get
times.
mad
Streaming
as
is so
fuck.
easy nowadays.
I'll get mad as fuck when my iTunes or my Apple
your
Music
CD gets
doesn't
crashed.
play,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Fuck you, motherfucker!" And then I'm like, "Wait, I remember back when I had to fish through my back seat riding 80 down the highway trying to find my CD case, so then I can be a completely distracted driver once more and try to change the CD while also looking through my CD book to figure out which CD I was going to pop into the CD player. But by the way, my car didn't have a CD player. I had a portable Walkman that I ran through. Look, it had a tape player. And you had that tape,
Yes,
that tape
connected.
thing
Yes.
that would go into the
Because we
tape.
don't even have tape players anymore.
Yeah, it would have that tape thing, and then it had a cord attached to it, so it was like an aux cord. And so I ran my CD player Walkman through that, and that's how I was listening to music in my car, and it was some of the most dangerous shit
No,
in the world. And I was in high school, just that was what I was rocking, and I should have
It was
died.
in the passenger seat. You just click. You got the button memorized.
Yeah.
You're just clicking it to skip
Heaven
the
forbid
song.
you hit a bump. Damn, I gotta start the song over.
Hey man, I had a Chrysler LHS, man. That thing, that
It
was
was
smooth as fuck. I had no skips.
That's hilarious.
We talk about no skip albums, nothing skips
well, I
because I
think
couldn't reach the button.
I think the internet, and those like streaming platforms that were just starting out when we were still coming out of high school, changed music. I think forever
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
because it made bands like Evans Blue pop up on your shuffle.
That never.
Yeah,
You
that-
never
that
would
never
that
have
heard on
similar
radio.
artist tab, right?
Yeah, you would have never heard that. So us ending high school, heading into our early 20s, college years, we're introduced to, I think, an amount of music that we just weren't ready for or weren't used to, and
Hell yeah.
it was awesome. Like being able to go to college and I have a degree in political science, philosophy, and minors in philosophy and economics, political science major, and all I did was read books in college. But I can't read in silence.
I
So
have
I
a
listen.
degree in
You listen.
agronomy and a minor in horticulture.
Well,
So
all I did was listen to music while reading ancient philosophy.
That's wild.
And then I went to a religious school, so we had to take all kinds of Bible classes and stuff. So I would be listening to metal, writing my Old Testament notebook down that we had to do and turn in later.
Derek, let's be fully transparent here and say that, and we'll dive into your profession a little more here in a little bit, but you had Division I offers to go play football and turn them down to go to a law school to chase your passion for your career.
Well,
So I want to commend you for that, because I know that's not music related, but
yeah.
you're talking about your musical growth and development through college.
Yeah.
You could have gone and played Division I college football and chose not big time Division I college football and chose not to go chase a passion.
Well,
so I commend you for that.
Part of it was timing of injuries. That's probably the
Yeah.
bigger thing. Timing of injuries really screwed me up. But what I wanted to do was play for money. So
Yeah.
I went to the school that gave me the most money, gave me the most opportunity to get more money.
Malone University.
Yeah, so that's the bigger point. And my wife constantly reminds me that if I didn't go there, that we would have never met. And I always tell her that I'd be fine with that.
Bro, his
But I
wedding
really
was a
wouldn't.
blast. His wedding was a blast.
Oh,
Was it not?
dude, that was a
I don't
blast.
remember much of it, but it was a good time.
Well, I had a couple good roommates in college too that I could jam with. So Trip, you better listen to this. I'm gonna send it to you. I'm
What's
gonna
up,
give him a
Trip?
shout out. He was in my wedding. He just liked everything. He's like a big old Mississippi country bumpkin, or no, I think he's a Gulf Shore guy. Like, you know,
Okay.
like think about like that kind of almost Cajun's probably not the right word, but he might get offended by that because he's on the Mississippi
Creole.
Alabama side. Yeah.
Deep
So-
South.
But he loved rock music. We would jam to Creed all the time.
Cool.
He would come in, I'd be listening to some softer, more acoustic set stuff, or like they used to do those MTV Unplugged or whatever
Oh, yeah.
sets.
Oh,
you know,
my
of all those
God.
guys.
Yeah.
And Trip would come in and be like, "Damn, you're in your feels today," and I'd be like, "Every day, dude." And then he and I got deep into this like second wave of punk pop.
Oh.
Yeah.
So give the listeners some examples of that.
Neck Deep, State Champs.
Yes.
Oh,
Those
I
type of
got
guys.
you.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
I
fucking
dude,
champs,
Dude,
bro.
I love those type of bands because they added an element to the punk pop that wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that element is closer to Midwest emo.
What do you think about Seosin?
Oh, they're good.
That first
Yeah.
first album, that self-titled, is literally some of the best choruses I have ever heard in my life. If I was going to say top 5 albums based on choruses
Why do I
alone,
think of them?
it would be there.
Why is it when I think of Seosin, I think of Red Jumpsuit Apparatus?
I see where
So,
you're coming
You
from.
get where I'm coming
Yeah,
from? Am I
they're
crazy?
somewhat similar, I suppose.
So-
but
because-
I have a playlist that I call Shredded Gnar. And it is that
Shredded Gnar.
it's that second kind of punk pop wave where it's like Neck Deep, State, those guys.
Yep.
And it was what I listened to when I would be my first job. I'd be driving a lot. That's what I listened to on the highway, driving across the fucking country.
Fuck
every day.
yeah.
And it was just like
Kind of good mood,
it
too.
is. It's a vibe. It's with that like second wave of punk pop and the Midwest emo vibes that they had that weren't there in like Blink. Don't get me wrong, I like Blink.
Yeah.
I like all that original punk pop
30
stuff.
Seconds to Mars.
Yeah, but it's like that's closer to party music, and I'm gonna come.
Exactly.
I'm gonna
It
come
is.
back.
It's some
to
of the best party music
Yeah,
ever.
that's true. But it's
Yeah.
like that was like more popular, something you would listen to party closer to the feelings that I would like attribute to like hair metal.
Yeah.
I'm not a big hair metal
Like
fan.
a party
because-
feel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
like
party
a
I
party
got,
feel.
I got you. Yep.
So one band that I like I would kind of lump into that genre a little bit is called In Her Own Words.
Okay.
Yeah, that band right there is probably my favorite from that whole genre. There's a few others that I really like. I need to
You know,
pull
the
up
other
my-
band that had that similar feel, but I'm assuming would have been years later, was Sleeping with Sirens.
Because Kellen Quinn's voice.
Yeah,
They're-
it had
they're-
that kind
they're
of feel.
earlier. Sleeping
But-
with Sirens.
but-
They would be
later
earlier?
on.
Okay.
No. So Sleeping with Sirens got started earlier, but
Yeah.
so when you think of Sleeping with Sirens, right, you typically associate them more towards that metalcore side because Kellen does
Yeah,
scream.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That old
punk has
Sleeping-
a lot of unclean vocals too.
That's another
Bro, if
band.
you go back and listen to like the fucking Sex Pistols,
Yeah.
they still like that dude would like.
Yeah.
Back then they didn't call it screaming; it was like a
A
screech,
yell.
a yell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So metalcore, right? It is punk and the new wave of American heavy metal is what metalcore is.
Yeah.
So a band like Sleeping with Sirens that has some metalcore roots but still makes fun and jumpy songs is that's a fucking fantastic example out of you.
Yeah.
I love Sleeping with Sirens.
Yeah, me too.
And Derek, do you like them too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I personally love bands like that, and I'm weird, I guess. I like bands that are in that vibe of punk / metalcore that have vocalists that can hit that real high pitched shit.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I love Bad Omens, is because like if you listen to Bad Omens album that came out in 2016 that had like Dethrone and all that shit on it that was straight up metalcore, and then you listen to the new album that has some techno, has some synth, has some really touchy-feely shit. It's completely different, but I vibe to that because I love uber-talented vocalists.
Yeah.
Guys like Noah Sebastian from Bad Omens, Kellen Quinn from Sleeping with Sirens. There's so many of Tillian from Dance Gavin Dance. DGD created almost their own genre of metal, right? And I am drawn to bands like that because of their versatility and their ability to do so many different things. And Derek, a lot of those bands that you just mentioned did a lot of that. And I personally feel like those bands are much more unique than those cookie cutter metalcore bands, right? And I'm not talking negatively about bands like Memphis Mayfire, Weekend Drums, Fit for a King, whatever it might be, because they make great music, but a lot of it is very similar. Yeah. And then you have bands like Sleeping with Sirens, Dance Gavin Dance, Dayseeker, even though their last album wasn't very good. But bands like that are kind of breaking the mold and doing their own thing. And they all have one thing in common, and that's a super talented frontman, right? That has these operatic type vocals that their range is huge, and they're able to do so many different things vocally, and it draws me personally in.
I'm a big lyrics guy, and this is what's interesting about me and Preston being friends, is if you know Preston, back in the day, he did not give a shit what the lyrics had to say.
Dude, I said
still
no
doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't. I do not give a shit.
And me,
do not care.
I'm like, good lyrics can overcome bad music for me.
Yeah.
But when Preston and I find songs that we both like, that's how you know this genre
it's a good song.
Like, this genre's just different. It's got that depth that a guy like Preston, who's not listened to the lyrics or who's not as moved by the lyrics as I might be, and then me, who's not listened to the music at that point in time, might
not
not
as much
be
as you are now.
Yeah, now I think my tastes have evolved and developed.
Because you're a musician.
Well, there's that, but it takes me to my next step. I was kind of out of metal for a little while. Like, my addition of new metal music, newer, not like NU metal, but new to me metal music, was kind of non-existent for a few years there. And then Preston starts introducing me to bands like Polaris and Periphery, and the one that really got me back into metal is Novelist.
Oh my God. Old Novelist when they still
Jinx.
The new to me is horrible.
I don't mind. I don't mind
Novelist when they still had
Mateo.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but as I said earlier, I grew up in a house with my sister playing clarinet all the time. She can play piano. She can play saxophone. So when I hear a band, and even old We Came as Romans will have piano in it occasionally. But when I hear a metal band that tries to incorporate techniques and
classical
instruments from classical music, that is the most exciting thing to me, because it just adds another level, another layer. And you got to understand that, we're living in a time where almost all music has words to it. I think there's actually a lot of people on the internet who are writing good stuff on the guitar that's never going to have words put
lyrics
to it.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I mean, you would write whatever frickin' symphony, and people go out in the street and riot. Like in medieval times, they're like,
right.
Damn, Bach wrote some banging shit. We got to go burn the church down, So
Isn't
It
that
all goes
crazy?
back
to
to
think about?
Beethoven going to get a pick going, baby. Let's go.
yeah, so
Vivaldi just dropped an absolute
so-
fucking jam.
that's hilarious. It's
That's why
hilarious
everybody
that you
had
say
stink
that.
face back then.
Yeah.
It's hilarious that you say Vivaldi because between Vivaldi and metal, that's what got me through law school and college.
You do realize that Vivaldi is metal.
Is metal,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
dude.
so Vivaldi,
Or metal
metal is
is
Vivaldi.
Yeah.
So if you go back to somebody like
Metal as
Vivaldi,
fuck.
That's wrong.
it is
Dude,
metal
it
as
really
fuck.
is, dude.
Vivaldi on a harpsichord playing at 2 or 3 times the tempo that
Yeah.
most folks were playing back then, and you know when most of the composers moved to a piano, you know guys like Vivaldi were still playing on a harpsichord,
Yeah.
and because it had that raw sound to it, and we're really going down a rabbit hole here, but that is where the roots of our music love comes from.
Yeah.
Is classical music.
Yeah.
And Derek, you and
There's
I talked
something-
about this pre-show and in the week leading up to the show about your passion for incorporating those
Exactly.
classical elements into modern day metal.
Yeah.
So you loved Periphery's last album, Hail
yeah.
Stan.
Oh yeah.
That had so much.
Hail Stan is an incredible metalcore album.
Yes, you don't like them very much.
I don't like
but
Periphery as
no
a
one
band
can
very much.
deny
No, their
that
new album I don't like.
musically it was
Yeah.
it was a fucking masterpiece. Reptile, that fucking song, 15 minutes long, and you won't feel the time pass.
No.
It's almost like when Metallica released Master of Puppets in 1986. It's an 8.5 minute, almost 9 minute song that goes by like that,
Yeah.
right? So, and I'll be the first to tell you, and you guys know this just as well as anybody, I do not particularly care for Periphery. I don't like their latest album, but Hail Stan, for me, I have the whole album on my playlist. It is a no-skip album, and it is arguably the most creative metalcore, quote-unquote, album out there because of their pure talent and ingenuity.
Mixing up a new
What?
old fashioned over there. Preston's mixing up a new old fashioned.
Yeah,
over
so
there, distracting me.
we're not sponsored yet, but we would love to be sponsored by Blanton's.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
the
we need to get
folks
some
on YouTube,
sponsors. Athletic Greens,
I didn't know that was
Liquid Death.
Blanton's.
It is Blanton's. Would you like some?
I already got some other stuff.
Okay, well, I have Blanton's with some
I didn't
dust
see
on the
that
bottle.
sitting over there.
I told you I was bringing it.
Yeah, but I didn't see it sitting over there. So when I went to get stuff, I looked at what
Well,
was
when
there.
you're ready, I've got Blanton's.
So
Oh boy.
But anyway, so when you are incorporating those classical elements into music, I'm instantly intrigued, right?
Yeah.
Because as a musician myself, I appreciate ingenuity and uniqueness. And Periphery is one of those bands that every song that they write is completely unique.
yeah.
The one thing that bugs me the most about Periphery is I struggle with the off rhythm stuff, and that is not indicative of them. It is more on me in the sense of maybe it's my ADD or undiagnosed autism. I like that structure of traditional rhythm, and Periphery strays from that a lot because they can, because they're talented enough to do it. And me myself, when I'm in here jamming with Scotty, I want Scotty to lay me a consistent ass beat. All right, keep me on rhythm. Periphery can stray from that and make it sound right.
Yeah.
So while I
Well-
don't care for them that much, I probably respect them more than any metal band in the scene right now.
We talked about we briefly, he and I think Scotty was still in here, briefly talked about some musical theory a little bit there.
We did talk about musical
And
theory.
it's
yes.
a math problem. It really is. It's like a math problem or a chess game as much as it is the creativity. Everybody thinks it's just you gotta smoke weed and then it just comes to you, man, and you just play what you feel. It's not. It's a math problem, and there's something liberating about that. There's something liberating about understanding the rules of the game. That it's a numbers problem, and then you get to play inside those rules. That's what makes music awesome.
What did I tell you, Kyler?
Bro, what did we do? It was
we
was
were
like
eating
Thursday
dinner.
night.
We were eating dinner Friday night, I think it was.
Yep.
And I was explaining to you some of my thought process around
On musical
playing
theory.
and how music theory helped really open the fucking floodgates
Because
for
it's
what
not
was
about
possible.
it's not about key, right? It's not necessarily about being in key. It's about finding Tyler, you worded it perfectly.
What
Go
note
ahead.
goes where? That's
So, with music theory, people talk about the key a lot. The key is literally a key like what you would see on a map key. The key just tells you what scale you're playing. And when you understand what scale you're playing, you understand what 8 of 12 notes there are in our chromatic scale that we use
Whether
in
it's
Western
a major
music.
or a minor.
Yeah. And so you only have 12 notes, and so this key or this scale that you're playing is 8 of those 12. It's just which 8 of those 12 is matching what you're playing here. And when you're translating onto the guitar, all you need to understand is the patterns of those scales. And there's a major pattern and a minor pattern and some variations to those depending on what kind of weird shit you want to do. But at the very end of the day, it's 2 patterns. And when you understand those patterns, you can find the few notes that sound good with whatever chord progression is going on. And once you understand what pattern you're in, you can follow that pattern down the fretboard. And understanding a little bit of music theory helps you understand that. And all of a sudden, this whole fucking fretboard is opened up to you. And you're like,
infinite.
what the fuck?
What?
And then
Yeah.
to further add to the infinity of it, it's, okay, well, now there's different phrasings and different ways I can put these melodies together and, different rhythms, different dynamics I can add to it, and I can go legato or staccato and add a different feel to it. And there's
Big
so
legato
much.
Yeah.
legato
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
Big legato guy. Yeah.
So it's
Well,
it's-
here's what I wanted to go back to. Part of the music theory, there's like kind of 2 ways something sounds good. One is being in that proper pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of it is another way that it sounds good is when you're not in that pattern. So it's 1, 4, and you go back to 2.
And those are just the different rhythms.
Yeah, and
but
that's
what a
probably,
band like Periphery capitalizes
So
on.
next time you listen to Periphery, I want you to think about that as the music's playing, and you might slightly appreciate it more.
They're absolute geniuses, man.
Because,
Absolute
again,
geniuses.
I don't personally like Periphery, but I appreciate and respect the shit out of how fucking inventive and talented they are as a group.
Yeah.
Because there is nobody, and y'all know I meat ride Polaris so fucking hard. Polaris ain't doing the shit Periphery's doing.
Nope. Maybe a Tesseract or a Carnival.
Carnival's another
Carnival's
one.
a
Tesseract's
big
great
one.
example.
But I think that's why it's extremely important that metalheads in particular, and even if you don't, I'm not classically trained in music whatsoever. I learned a little
None of
music
us are,
theory
except
because
maybe Tyler.
I'll tell you why I started getting into music theory. I could not figure out how to play guitar. I could strum a little bit, and I was playing guitar with you guys in high school. I could pick around a little bit, but I couldn't really put together a song. I couldn't play a complete song until I started to understand music theory and how the guitar worked and why you can make the sounds, why it sounds good here and there, and how the chords come together, and those causes behind what makes the guitar sound the way it sounds.
Yep.
That is when I was like, oh, okay, I kind of understand this now.
Yeah.
And interestingly, that same point in time is when I started getting back into metal. And I think that's why I like these kind of newer metalcore bands that are kind of on the edge.
Yep.
To expand on that a little bit, and because I agree, right? I feel the exact same way. Because a lot of these bands are so deep into music theory, right? And making things sound unique and taking advantage of their knowledge of music theory and classical music in that essence, right? So and we said it last episode, or I said it last episode, radio core, right? Radio rock.
Yeah.
Those bands, and all respect to them, they're great at what they do, but bands like Green Day, they play the same 3 or 4 chords every fucking song, and it's so easy to listen to. It doesn't require any prior knowledge of music theory or understanding the difficulties therein of creating it's a composition, right?
Yeah.
Modern day metal is a classical composition. And a lot of these bands out today, I think, that are on the radio in anyway, don't go through that process because that's just not their niche. I'm not saying they don't have the talent to or the ability to. That's just not their niche. The bands that we listen to are Tyler, Thrice. Thrice understands music theory better than so many bands out there, right? So does Deftones. And those are two bands that I don't particularly care for, but I respect the shit out of because of their composition. And I think that, Meat Riding again, Screaming Evidence does a fantastic job of understanding music theory and creating not just a song, but a composition. And that's why it takes, you guys make sure that you got the song 100% where you want it to be before you're ready to record or play it start to finish. It is all about composition and understanding music theory and creating a unique sound that differentiates you from the cookie cutter rock or metal band out there.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why the four of us appreciate bands like Polyphia, Periphery. Polyphia. Did I say Polyphia?
Yeah.
Yeah, Polyphia.
Some people read it wrong.
Not
read it
Tomatoes,
wrong.
motto.
We're
Yeah,
from the
exactly.
sticks. But yeah,
No,
band like
I
that.
don't know any band names. I think 13 years of football gave me CTE, so I don't
CTE,
remember
bro.
anybody's
Yeah,
I'm
name.
Antonio
sure
Brown.
there's so many bands out there I pronounce wrong as well.
Just bands we've mentioned on here so many times before, but because they create compositions, not just songs.
So I'm going to give a band a shout out, and I already told you guys.
Go for it. We love band
I was going to give them a
shout-outs.
shout out because I really like it. They're in this weird metalcore, I think, area. They're foreign, and they incorporate saxophone solos in almost every song, and they go hard on the saxophone. And it's I think I'm pronouncing it right, Shrezzers. I think they're from France. I don't know where they're from.
I remember you showing them a while
But
back.
they do some really cool stuff, and they do some other stuff I like too. Like there's like some weird chanting going on that's almost religious.
Okay.
Like, music for me in a lot
Like
of
a
ways.
choir?
No, like almost like a religious like chant that you would only hear at
A haka.
Yeah.
A haka?
No, maybe.
I don't know. I just
think
wanted to say
more
that.
like
That's a fun word.
think
Haka.
more like you're in the big Catholic cathedral and there's some guy in the back, like
I
in the
got
back,
Shame.
something like
Okay.
that.
Oh.
Or like what was that one Creed song that had like Native American chanting in it? You know what I'm talking about?
Whew, I can't
Tyler,
think off the top of my head.
Tyler
We
might
all
know.
love Creed
We
here.
love Creed.
Like it was like a foreign
Scott
language,
Stapp
and
would
it's
say.
like,
I know. I heard this song, but I don't remember what it is. I would imagine it was a song I didn't like very much.
yeah. It was a little weird, but nonetheless, check them out if you can. I know I've already talked to these guys about them a little bit. They're just in a weird spot like, in comparison to some of the other bands we've listened to. Like they're not that heavy. Like they're heavy. They have some heavy riffs.
Remember, heavy is a feeling, not a
Heavy
sound.
is a feeling.
Absolutely.
But they make a saxophone metal. And that's what I really like. I mean, it already
That's
is metal,
badass.
but they lump it in here. So.
Novelist.
Novelist is another
Novelist.
So how about
That's
it?
one.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
gonna shout out a band that we have not. We're on episode 4, and I cannot believe that we haven't talked about these guys. And they're in that same vein that Novelist is, and all that. Landmarks
Oh,
Landmarks.
whoo.
from
That
France.
last
as well.
album. That last album was nasty.
Landmarks is an
Oh.
absolutely incredible band that incorporates so many different concepts into. Tyler, you're laughing. I'm curious why you're laughing, but
So, look, the first time I heard them, Preston sent me one of their songs, and I think it was on their latest album.
it was the Ocean
But-
or something. I can't remember what it was called, but yeah.
But I remember him sending it to me, and I thought this is going to be like a
Oh,
soft rock.
Lost in a Wave.
I was like,
in
this
a
is
Way.
going to be like a
Yeah.
soft rock song. Hold
It
on,
starts
hold on,
off with that
hold on.
crunchy guitar
Shut up,
riff.
shut up. So like, I'm like, all right, so this is going to be like a soft rock song. I think at that time, he and I were sharing like Corey Wells and
Yes.
and we were listening to a bunch of Thrice and stuff at that time because Thrice had dropped an album. And so I was in this like light rock, not metalcore kind of vibe. And he sends me this, and based on the cover, I'm like, yeah, this looks like the same vibe of what we've been listening to. And I listened to it, and I was like, yeah, this is exactly what we've been listening to. And then they break into some gnarly shit. I was just, I had the volume all the way up.
Yeah.
And I was expecting, like, you know, this, like, Citizen type shit, fucking brand new kind of vibe thing. And no, that is not
Lost
what happened.
in a wave completely.
And
took
that
the script on
fucking,
you.
that blew me away. And it was a badass fucking song.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I think of them guys, I think of that moment that I thought that they were soft, and they proved they were not soft.
There's something about, like, European metal, that and this is a, I guess, not so hot metal take, that they're kicking the shit out of us in every way.
They are.
Same
Europeans,
as Australians,
Australians.
dude.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Australians.
Oh, and you guys shouted out, what's the band called from
Crooked
Australia?
Crooked Royals.
I listened to them.
New Zealand.
Yep. So here's how I listen to podcasts, and I hope other
It's like
people
another
do
British
too.
wave.
But yeah,
British, new wave of British heavy metal. Yep.
I was the last 3 episodes. Every time you guys would mention somebody, I would be like, all right, got to pause the podcast, go back and listen to them. And be like, yes. Or like,
Yeah.
Nutshell. Oh, got to pause the podcast,
Yeah.
go back and listen to
Distance.
Nutshell. And then I'd come back to you guys and be like, oh,
You
this
should
is
just
great.
carry a notepad with you
Yeah.
when you're listening to the podcast and just take
You really
notes.
should.
That's the thing, and people have reached out to me and talked about how awesome it is that we shout out a lot of these local bands or up and coming bands. You know, we use the term local bands for, you know, the up and coming guys, and Crooked Royals was a great example of that, Derek. So thanks for shouting those guys out again.
So here's to kind of end we glossed over so much of what I would call like kind of my musical journey. Okay. And I'm
we
sure,
got off on a million different tangents.
But it was fun.
It's a podcast.
It was fun. But I want to bring it to a close because I think it ties it all back together where we just stopped right there. What I would have loved to have as an adolescent who's into metal was this kind of community. And you guys talk about the metal brotherhood and those type of things.
It's real.
But
It is real.
For me, it was finding new shit.
Yeah.
And now I live an hour and 10 minutes away from you guys, and I don't get to hang out with you guys and be a part of your group text, or you send each other distance, which, by the
you
way,
will
I
be
had to
now.
fucking listen to, too. And
You and everybody else
all the
that
other
listen.
bands that you guys shout out that I'm like, damn, I haven't heard them in a while. You know, I had to go back and listen to We Came as Romans, like, those 2 original records. Like,
Jesus.
And it was
Changed
like,
our life.
R.I.P.
forward
Kyle
back.
Pavone.
Yes.
So I hope that this podcast can be a place that, you know, 15-year-old Derek would have been able to go back and say, oh, I listened to these guys and they shout out this band and I went and I found it. Because that's what we hoped radio was for us. And it never was.
It wasn't.
And the only way we found new stuff was if one of us snuck up upon it somewhere, or once stuff started getting on the internet and shuffling
YouTube.
around.
And
or whatever
unfortunately,
else.
you know,
Yeah.
the 4 of us, we're all the same age. You know, we grew up in an era where, you know, YouTube was just starting out and it was mostly
starting out.
memes. We didn't know what memes were back then, but that's what it was. You know, it wasn't necessarily a lot of these up and coming artists trying to release their stuff. TikTok wasn't a thing. Vine wasn't even a thing back then. And it, you know, now, and Derek, you hit the nail on the head with, you know, yes, I know a lot of people our generation, our age, listen to this. But I hope that a lot of that younger generation does too, because we've been where you guys are, and it's a sense of I feel like
boomer core gatekeepers.
No.
No, we're not. I know I make some parody stuff on my TikTok account, but it's all to get you guys talking and talking about music and talking about rock and heavy metal music. And this podcast is meant to be a vessel for people to come and feel like they're a part of the metal brotherhood. And Derek, you teed that up perfectly.
Well, I said it every time we go to the Barnyard Bash show. I say it every time. I wish we had this in high school. I think it started a few years after high school. But
it was going on out at somebody's barn outside of Washington Courthouse when we were in high school, but we just didn't know of it at the time.
The same can be said for this podcast now.
Yeah.
I wish this was around when we were in high school, because I would have listened every week just to hear the new band. And then there's another element, too, that we haven't got on the podcast yet, and that's the advice for new bands and new musicians.
Let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now I think we're running out of time, I almost feel like, or we can take as long as we want, but
You're good.
As these guys mentioned, unfortunately, I am an attorney.
Unfortunately.
It sucks. Don't do it. Don't go to law school. That's a joke. It's a meme. Speaking of memes, got to touch on this real quick. I am liable to send Preston at least 1 or 2 Midwest emo memes a week. It's like a funny meme with somebody screaming in the background, and it's got the Midwest emo riff
And
going on.
also telecasting as being played.
I hate you. So, anyway, when these guys asked me to come on, they wanted to kind of pick my brain on maybe some legal issues that new bands or new musicians might be running into. So I brushed up on a little copyright and a little contract. To give you guys some background, I am a litigator. I am in court more often than not. And me personally, I believe in being a general practitioner. That means probably nothing to most people listening to this, but for those attorneys out there, if there are any who are listening to this, I want to do everything. I don't want to just do contracts. I don't want to just do medical malpractice defense. I don't want to just do criminal defense. I want to do it all. So I do primarily criminal defense, defense work as a lot from the public defender's office. I get appointed to represent people, but then I do a lot of property and contracts and general tort liability, but almost exclusively on the defense side. So that's, if I say something wrong or that's maybe not particularly helpful, it's probably because I'm a litigator and I don't deal with those transactional things that a lot of these small bands are going to be dealing with. So I'd like to probably turn it over to the small band, the local band, to maybe tell me what you guys have run into.
So, I mean, I've been really excited about this conversation because
We've all been excited about this conversation.
So I myself, I went to school for music business, and so I had to, a lot of what I studied was these things around law associated with the music industry, and then business practice associated with the music industry. And essentially what my degree was a general business degree tailored to a specific industry. And so what I know about and what I learned about business law and copyright law and these things around the music industry, a lot of it was on a very broad spectrum. And so when I was trying to look at what actually applies to me in my situation as a small local band, you know, what is reasonable, what is shit that I don't really need to think about right now, what are some things I really do need to be thinking about right now. And at our level, essentially the first and foremost component of what we would deal with in this realm is copyright. Because at the end of the day, our product in the entire business of being a band is the song and the music that we write. And what copyright is at its base level is intellectual property. And so it's not much different than a patent. It's just more associated with the arts. And so, you know, copyright extends to like visual artists and things like that. But how it plays into music is, one, when do you have a copyright to the song that you wrote? What is the definitive moment? And what steps do you take to protect that product and say, I own this, I and only I can benefit from its use? Legally, ethically, whatever.
I have to say this first. Nothing that I'm about to say is legal advice, and you should go talk to an attorney. You have to. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that attorney.
You have
that's
to,
the only
though.
way I have to
No, you
protect
have to.
myself. But a copyright is formed at the moment of creation. I mean, it is formed at conception.
And to expand on that a little bit, like this podcast, for example.
Yeah.
Me, personally, I own the copyright to this podcast. When I created it and I partnered with the RSS feed that distributes this podcast, they sent me an email that said, hey, here's a copyright. You, Kyler, not saying my last name, you own it. Yeah. This is your podcast.
Send it in.
Right.
Like, so there's even though your copyright forms automatically at creation. So let's say you're the band Screaming Evidence and you write "say" and you record it. Your copyright is formed right there. You own it. However, you might not be able to vindicate those rights under the copyright law of the federal government. So let's take a step back. To form that copyright, you need an original work.
Okay.
And it has to have just a little bit of creativity. So that's the thought, the process that falls out into this product, the song, composition, the lyrics, the sound. That little bit of creativity you put into it is what makes your copyright. In order to vindicate those rights, you have to file for your copyright. And there are tons of resources online that you can do it on your own. I think the form that I would advocate, and I might be screwing this up, but there are two separate parts of your music copyright. There's a composition, and then I think it's called the mechanical portion thereof. Okay, there's a form SR, I think is what it's called, and I'm just going off of my memory. I should have put some notes down on this. I think in today's world, there's no excuse for an independent musician to not file that form SR, where you get to own both of those pieces, because that's where you get screwed up with a record label, is they'll own one and you'll own the other.
Oh, okay.
So to somewhat translate what Derek's been saying, so back to the creativity piece, it can't just be
creativity.
You can't just write a song that is AGA and say, this is a song, I own it, and I own the copyright, so anyone else that writes a song with AGA is infringing on my copyright. So there has to be a certain level of creativity where it has to be unique enough to say that it isn't somewhere else.
Yeah. Chord progressions are not copyrightable.
Right. And so you have to have lyrics involved. You have to have melodies with those lyrics involved. And really that point of quote-unquote creation is when it is written on paper or it is recorded. And so then talking about the two separate copyrights, you have the composition, which is the song itself, and then the mechanical copyright is the recording. So the idea of mechanical dates back to when music was first being created, and a lot of people said that was a mechanical song, or, it was created mechanically or whatever.
So, for instance, you have to have a certain uniqueness feature.
Yeah.
Yes.
To your so like
the Supreme Court calls it a modicum of creativity. So if you want to sound real pretentious, use that word.
So, for example, a modicum of creativity is the name, The Screaming Idiots Show.
No.
That's a trademark.
That's a trademark.
You cannot copyright names. You cannot copyright ideas. So, for example, Radiohead is named after some other band song.
Look at this. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
There's some song.
No.
I think it's a song or a movie or something. Or like Wu-Tang Clan. It's named after some Japanese movies or some shit.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole story behind that. But you can't copyright the name. So you can't copyright Say. You also can't copyright the idea behind Say. So the metaphor that's used a lot is like, let's say you and Susie break up. And you want to write a song about you and Susie breaking up. Someone else can write a song about him and Susie breaking up, but it can't be the exact same song. And
All right, so how many X's does Susie have?
Susie got a lot of X. Susie gets around.
Susie gets
around.
Susie's a hoe.
Listen, we have
Susie,
all right,
Poosie.
Here's some analytics on the pod. We have failed to capture the female audience. We have 97% male listeners.
Oh. Hey.
So for the ladies out there,
Damn.
I'm sorry.
I know there's some
For the ladies out
metalheads.
there, go
I know
listen
there's
to
some lady
512 a.m. from Novelist.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That's another diversity thing I'm talking
Beautiful.
about. I think that there needs to be
512 a.m.
there
is
needs
one of
to
my
be a few
favorite
more
songs of all time.
female lead vocalists, I think. And
Spirit box.
Anyway.
So anyway,
They're driving.
Yeah, well, let's get back on the copyright
back
thing.
to copyright. So in order to file your copyright, you have to go through literally a U.S. government website. And the main thing that prevents bands from going that step is education and understanding how to do it, why to do it, and a couple things around that also is it costs money. And it's not that much. I think it's like
Right.
$20 per registration. Now here's where it gets tricky. So with registering your copyright, you do have the option to register each song individually, or you can register a whole album. The problem with that is when you do a whole album as one, so if you're being cheap and you're saying, I only got $20, I'm going to register all the copyrights to this 10-song album under one registration to save money. And then you get an offer to use your song for a movie or a commercial or something like that. And then you say, okay, well, I have the copyright. I'm able to enforce the copyright. I'm going to go ahead and accept this offer. And then this person or this company or whatever starts using all the fucking songs on your album. And you're like, hold on, bro.
See, I didn't
The
think
fuck
about
are you
that.
doing? And they're like, well, you only registered one copyright, so when I paid you to be able to use the copyright on your one song, you actually gave me permission to use the copyright for all your songs on this album because you only wanted to pay $20.
Yeah, see, that's something I wasn't thinking about because I was going to say, hey, for you small bands who maybe don't have the money, that might be a good route, is to go that whole album route. But I didn't
And
think
it
about
is,
that. Yeah.
because on our, Screaming Evidence's level, ain't nobody hitting us up asking us to use our fucking
Yeah.
songs for commercials and
We need to
movies
write
and
better
stuff.
songs then,
well,
motherfucker.
No, you're just too goddamn metal.
That highlights in a very important reason why copyright's important. So
Yeah.
You guys know copyright is in the Constitution.
Yes.
So copyright is kind of this weird intersection between free speech and the ability to further the sciences and further the arts.
Okay.
But also the right to protect your property.
Yeah. It's our founders understood that the only way we can have progress is if you can monetize those creative ideas.
Because it builds
So,
an economy.
Derek, let me ask you, and this is not legal advice, people. Derek, I, Kyler, own the copyright to the Screaming Idiots show. What exactly do I own?
Actually, I don't know if you own a copyright. No,
You
you
own the
do.
mechanical
you own
copyright.
The mechanical copyright. You own the right to distribute it, to display it publicly on whatever platform you want to, and to earn royalties off of it. So when you have a copyright, you own the mechanical property, but that gives you the ability to perform it publicly, to display it, to make money on it, to create derivative work. So let's say that the Screaming Idiots podcast blows up, and we want to make a Screaming Idiots movie.
Mhm.
That would fall along with that copyright.
Is that a royalties thing?
No. Think Straight Outta Compton movie.
Yes.
Royalties would be like every time the radio plays it, every time Spotify plays it,
Gotcha.
every time that's
Okay.
where
So
the
what
royalty
was
thing
what
rolls
was
into.
Straight Outta Compton paying Dr. Dre, Ice Cube? What were they getting? What
I
was the
have
terminology?
So
No idea.
Okay.
here's where all that comes in. So as the songwriter, you automatically have the composition copyright. So no matter what the record label is doing, the record label is not taking the money for the radio play. They're not taking the money for, technically DJs are supposed to pay composition royalty to whoever wrote the song or whatever songs they're playing. And it's honestly, according to the law, it is the venue's responsibility to keep track of what songs are being played.
Wow.
And send it
I did not know
to
that.
one of the songwriting unions and be able to pay those royalties. But then there's the mechanical royalty, and this is where labels come in, and because the labels take ownership of the mechanical royalty, they have the right to distribute the music and basically get all the monetization from that distribution of the music. So anytime a CD is sold, there is a composition royalty paid to the songwriter, and if you're not the songwriter, so country artists, I'm gonna fucking stab at you fuckers, who don't write your own songs.
None of them, though.
They don't get the composition royalty. Whoever is in this back room that's not pretty enough to be on stage, but's an amazing musician that's writing the songs, they're getting the composition royalty, and then the label is getting the mechanical royalty that they own to be able to have the freedom to distribute this song and whatever platform they see fit to be able to promote it and monetize it. And it's because the labels own the big piece of the monetization around copyright that they kind of fuck artists. And around that, they tell the musician, oh, I'm going to pay you 5% of that mechanical royalty because the only reason you're making money off of it is because of the money I put behind you to make it happen.
I hope that all of the local bands, the up-and-coming artists that are listening to this show have been paying attention.
My goal for the advice that I wanted to give on this platform.
It's not legal advice.
Yeah, it's just general business advice for musicians. Know your rights. Know that you know your rights and vindicate your rights. You own the music that you produce. You don't have it's 2023. You don't have to go giving it up to a record company to make any kind of money in this game or to blow up. I mean, think about Post Malone on SoundCloud. We're living in the Post Malone on SoundCloud, Posty. White Iverson.
Love Posty.
Just puts it up on SoundCloud.
How about Metallica and Napster?
Yeah, well,
it's the same thing.
We're living in a world now where we can be on a podcast and shout out a local band, and you can blow up, and you do not have to give up your rights.
You don't have to pay us a goddamn thing.
Some stupid record company that has no fucking idea how to make music. They're just grifters taking money from
they're
the
banks
real
and businessmen.
Yeah, they're suits.
Don't
and I say
them.
that as
Don't
a
blame
suit. I say that. I wear a suit every day. Don't listen to the suits. Know your rights and vindicate your rights. Like I said, you can be on Spotify without having a record label. You can be on iTunes without having a record label. The more that you own of your product, the more money you can make, and the more realistic having a go at this crazy dream that so many people have, the more realistic it becomes.
Yeah.
You know,
that's another reason I respect Periphery so much.
Yeah.
And I know there's a specific episode, and I don't know when, that I know we've mentioned them 3 or 4 times today already, that I want to dive into how Periphery blew up on the business side because of Misha's entrepreneurial mindset as well as the other guys. Mm-hmm. But keep going, Derek.
So that if you can get one thing, one scintilla of advice from me as an attorney, but not legal advice. It would be to vindicate your rights and to own your shit 100%.
Educate yourself.
So-
right?
Educate yourself. There's no excuse.
is-
Google that shit, bitch. Get out there, learn it, file your own copyrights. It's possible. You can do it. You don't need to pay me $250 an hour to do it.
Do your fucking research before you ever put your name on something, right,
And
Tyler?
it's really easy to look into copyright law. You literally search it up, and it'll take you to the U.S. Revised Code to be able to read through what the copyright law is.
Yeah.
And, if you're someone who really doesn't want to fuck with the business, that side of the business, that's where publishers come in.
Yeah.
And so that kind of leads me into...
Consult with anybody.
Yeah.
But do not give them the rights to your shit.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. So the way publishers work, so anyone that doesn't know what a publisher is someone that handles your copyrights for you. And so they are a pretty important component of the music industry, and they have been for a very long time. They're the ones that you basically say, per whatever agreement, I'm going to give you this percentage of my composition copyright, and in return, you're going to handle the business accounting and all that shit around this copyright, and you're actually going to shop this motherfucker around, and you're going to get movies to play it. You're going to get commercials to play it. You're going to get this in spots where I will actually make money from the composition royalty, whereas someone like us, Preston and I, in Screaming Evidence, we really don't have a way to get our music into those settings without someone like a publisher. And so then you also have different kind of publisher agreements where they can handle that much of your business, and it's typically a 50-50 split. Or you can go to where they just handle the fucking accounting and shit, and you're the one out there shopping your song and actually getting it out there on radio play and out there in movies and commercials and all these ways that you can actually monetize that copyright.
It's almost the opposite of the record label. Like, in many ways, the record
label... Well, they were around far before record labels.
Yeah.
I mean, publishers were around dealing... I mean, they were the ones putting out sheet music.
Yeah.
Back when that's all that there was.
I like that idea. I like that concept, and it's the same thing goes for all your branding. Because once you own the copyright to your music or your trademark to your band name, you own the right then to reproduce shirts and metal signs and shit on Etsy and all that nonsense, that you can, any of that derivative work from your copyright. But you guys don't have time to make all your T-shirts, so go find somebody who can, or use that publisher to get it out there and do it. But as long as you're not giving them those rights that you have on the copyright, because that's what's valuable.
Yeah.
Anybody can make the damn T-shirt. You don't need to go to the record label to do that, because they're going to go hire the same people that you can directly.
Same as
so
us,
I would say that really ties into the next component that a local artist may deal with, and that is a certain type of, there's different types of agreements and different types of contracts out there, and everyone in the industry that is out to make money, and you have to make money to make a living, they're after the components of you as an artist or as a musician that can make them money. And so I'd say some of the most common ways, common agreements that you may run into, and this goes into the legal side, is things like producer agreements. So this would be something you would probably run into more in hip hop or rap, but sometimes even in, rock and metal, where in order to get into this particular studio, to work with this particular producer that is just amazing at what they do, they will use their clout against you and say, because I'm working with you, you're probably going to get some kind of exposure, and you're probably going to get some kind of clout of your own to be able to say that you worked with me. So for that, I want a piece of your copyright, a piece of the mechanical, a piece of the composition, whatever it is. And to stuff like that, what would you say to local artists or up-and-coming artists that are being asked to sign these kind of agreements?
I think you really have to stand your ground in a lot of ways, if it is possible to. And part of now we're going to start touching on my ignorance around this area, because I feel like the only people who get in that position are musicians, and a lot of times they're not.
They're learning as they go.
Well, after it's done, you don't have the money to hire an attorney to fight it, so it's just it's an issue that I don't feel like gets to come up enough to be litigated. That being said, if at all possible, stand your ground and know your worth as much as you can. And I would probably advocate to not work with those producers and make it costly for them as much as it is for you, because they need you. They're not the ones putting out the music. I mean, the music is what really sells. And that might be terrible advice. There might be some attorneys listening who are like, no, don't,
Well, I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
And there's, that's why I say, like, it's more prominent in, like, hip-hop and rap, where the producer is actually helping create the beats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're helping create part of the music.
That's important. That is extremely
And
important.
something like that, yes, they really deserve some piece of the pie and some recognition as
so
a songwriter.
That kind of goes back to who owns the copyright, because one of my big cases with I was clerking for the Southern District Court of Ohio, federal court, was a huge copyright infringement case where a car dealer was using some stock music they found on the internet that happened to all be copyrighted, and they were supposed to pay for it. You could download it before you pay for it. That's how you got kind of screwed up. So every single time the ads ran, which were hundreds of thousands of times,
9.1 cent per play.
Add that up. And then car dealers, I guess, are notorious for not settling. So it was an interesting case, none to say the least. But the guy started a company. The guy who owned all the copyrights started a company. I mean, he wrote like the Fox Monday Night Football jingle and stuff like that. But like so much of the stuff was like partially owned by him, partially owned by another guy, partially owned by another guy, partially owned by another guy, because they all made these jingles together, and then they started buying other copyrights, and that comes down to an agreement between the two people who owns that copyright. So let's say, let's kind of create a hypothetical, and you can tell me if I'm way off or not, but let's say that you go into a studio and you're like you guys, and you wrote and produced all the songs yourself in here, in this garage, and then you just go to the producer to put it together. In that case, they don't have any fucking right to the music. You guys did all that, and he's just putting the final touches on it.
Right.
And you guys should have that conversation with him to be like, no, look, asshole, you might have done 10% of the work. We might agree to a number that gets closer to that 10% number. I guess maybe the strategy would be to learn as much about negotiation as you can. The one thing I do is never start off with your best.
Yep.
And
with us being in sales, we relate.
I would say,
I say be patient.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of the silence when the contract is on the table. Do not.
This
be
guy's
afraid
a
of the
salesman.
silence.
Hell yeah.
Everything is sales, people.
It's negotiation. Most litigation is settled. And I love sitting there in dead silence, making people feel uncomfortable.
I mean,
if he wasn't a lawyer, he'd be in sales.
Yeah,
but I think that brings up, another issue around copyright and agreements, is having an agreement within the band.
Oh, I'm so glad you
around who owns what piece of the copyright, because you can have. I mean, there's tons of examples of, like two songwriters coming together and saying, I'm going to write the lyrics, so I'm going to own the copyright around the lyrics. So anytime the lyrics are used in any kind of setting, whether it be like a T-shirt or, I don't know, a fucking restaurant wants to use a line from one of my songs to promote their restaurant or something, just weird shit that you can get paid on these copyrights for, that would be paid to the person owning the lyrics. And then you have the person that owns the music. They wrote all the musical aspects to it and say they're splitting the copyright 50-50. And so there's these agreements that you have to have within the band, within the group, around writing this song. And there's actual legally binding agreements that kind of need to be written and signed and agreed upon that a lot of artists don't do. And I think that's been a major downfall to a lot of bands that thought, when we're local and up and coming, we're tight knit, we trust each other, blah blah blah, really, and then we get big and money gets involved, and then it's like, honestly, Sean writes the majority. I mean, he's responsible for at least 50% of the music being written, because he's writing all the lyrics. He's typically coming with a bass line riff and whatnot.
So
maybe he deserves 50% of the copyright, and then the rest of us split what's left.
Here's what I think is very important when we're talking about this particular subject. The days are gone when business is conducted on handshake agreements.
Oh, for sure.
It's just not the way things work. And here's why. You need an exit strategy. I tell this to people all the time, because there's this like old wave of legal advice for like young go-getting guys to like not get married and then put everything in their girlfriend's name and stuff, like to protect themselves from liability and shit like that.
Yeah.
I'm not a believer in that whatsoever, because you need an exit strategy. Divorce. What are you going to do when you get to divorce? You got to find out how to divide up all the property or the kids or all that stuff. The same as with every other legal relationship. So there's two ways that you can, as a band, protect yourself and provide yourself that exit strategy. I know that everybody trusts everybody, and you don't want to bring this up, and it's going to hurt feelings, and it's going to that. But what happens if somebody passes away? What happens if somebody moves away? What happens if somebody goes to the fucking Navy or whatever?
What happens if Axl Rose decides that he is the fucking band?
What if fucking Yoko? What if somebody finds their fucking Yoko Ono or whatever the fuck her name was? But so it's important, I think, to put together a band agreement. And your band agreement could just be a contract between all you guys of how you divide up the profits from anything you do. I also think it's important to start an LLC as the band.
Yep.
Because that's going to protect you when Jenny gets kicked in the front row with somebody jumping up on the stage.
Because they could sue the LLC instead of suing you personally.
It protects your assets individually. And I think, this is just me. Kind of, if I was going to start a band, I would have a band agreement between my members. I would put everything in LLC. I would deposit all my checks in the LLC account, and then I would work out of that. So you could expense everything out of that account on your taxes. Take distributions when you can, when you want to, when it makes sense. But then you always then let the band own the copyright and divide things up according to your band agreement. That's that's just me talking out loud, how I would probably go about doing it.
I mean, you're exactly right.
Yeah, because what I would want to do is make sure that not one single person owns everything, not one single person cuts all the checks, and then not one single person's girlfriend can come in and say, Jimmy, I think you should leave the band and take all your shit with you. Make it. And if you really do have that relationship that you think you do, it's all going to make sense and it'll all be worth it.
And it's best to make those agreements when everyone's getting along, rather than try to fight in the court of law later down the road when an agreement comes up.
Here's another important piece. Now, to form your LLC, that has to be done on paper. A contract is a contract even if it's not written. Your conduct is what will be used to demonstrate there's a contract, and it will demonstrate what's the parts of the contract. So if you're all sitting together and there's a 3-piece band, and you say everything gets divided evenly, and then all of a sudden we see checks being split a third, a third, a third, okay, then that makes sense. And there's some kind of support that there is a contract and that the agreement is that everything gets split a third. But if you had the call and you said, I get half and you get 1/4 and you get 1/4, but then you're splitting everything a third, well, then your spoken word contract is not legitimate, because you guys are acting differently. Your conduct is just as important what's written down, and vice versa. So it makes it a whole lot easier if it's written down.
Well, there you have it. Some not legal advice from our resident lawyer, Derek. So we are way over our normal time, which is
don't
fine,
care at all.
Dude,
because this has been.
Yeah.
We can keep going.
I said at the beginning of the episode that this was going to be our best episode, and it abso-fucking-lutely is.
I sure
So,
hope it's provided insight to anybody listening.
I hope so too.
I really hope that all of the up-and-coming artists have paid attention. And good thing about podcasts is you can go back and re-fucking listen. Because Derek and
I really hope that people heard Derek when he was talking about what's the anthem, what's the soundtrack to your story.
Preston and I talk about it all the time in relation to sports. We call it, what's your why?
Yeah.
Right? What's your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you feeling the way that you're feeling? What's your goals, and why are they your goals? Yeah. So Derek, I think, did an absolutely phenomenal job of diving into his music story. And it's not just, boy, did y'all hear my voice crack right there?
Yeah.
It's not just his music story, it's his life story, and it relates so much to music. And Derek, you did a fucking killer job of touching on your growth as not only just a music fan, but a musician as well. And then I think that you and Tyler both have created a lot of great context around the legality of being an up-and-coming artist, and watch-outs and reasons to study musical law, copyright law, things of that nature. So, we've said it from the jump. This podcast is not just because we're having fun. It's because we want to bring value to our listeners, whether they be the casual music fan, the hardcore music fan, or the musician, the artist, the up-and-coming guys and gals that are in the industry and want to succeed at a high level. So, Derek, thanks a fucking shit ton for that.
Thank you. I'm extremely humbled by the opportunity. Not just to share my story, but then to maybe provide some insight, some help. I'm so grateful that you guys let me come on and do what we did.
We ain't done.
It was nice to hear from someone other than these two guys for a change.
Well, and this won't be your last. By the way, this will not be your last episode. You are not free from obligation, just so you know.
I just want to repeat myself, though. I said it. It's 2023. Know your worth as a musician. Know that guys like us are going to listen to you. We're going to find you. We're going to shout you out.
Oh, I've got some good ones tonight.
And make sure that you just don't sell your soul to the record company. We don't have to do that anymore. I wish they never had to do that, but you don't have to do it anymore.
No. So, it's time for everybody's favorite segment. Fucking heavy metal hot takes.
Took us a long time to
get here.
Woo!
It's been easily the best conversations that we've had to date, and we're only getting better, y'all. We're getting better and more refined every fucking week, and it's for you guys. So, Derek has a fan-fucking-tastic heavy metal hot take. Special guest Derek.
I really hope that I didn't spill the beans too much on this throughout our conversation, but as most of you are aware, I'm a big butt rock guy.
Butt rock.
Big butt rock guy.
And I still can't shake that butt rock.
Yeah,
okay?
if you're listening and you say you don't like or have never gotten into butt rock or divorced dad rock, as we call it, you're fucking lying.
They've blocked themselves.
So
we brought up, we mentioned, we very briefly in passing, you might not have even caught it, mentioned Creed.
Yes.
And before the podcast, we were talking about people's relationship with their lead singer. Most people like Creed because of their lead singer. I don't even want to say his name because the
Scotty.
real brains of that outfit is Mark fucking Tremonti.
Correct.
Bro, I'm gonna tell you right now. The Lord and Savior in this garage is Scott Stapp.
Listen, hey, if we started playing higher,
Shirtless
or,
Scott Stapp.
Shirtless Dallas Cowboys
no.
jersey, Scott
Yeah.
Stapp.
I'm
We
telling
Flying
you,
over
what, man,
that motherfucker.
if
Hey,
it's
we do have to
1998
specify.
or whatever, and
Human
Crane's
clay,
on-
bro.
Oh my god,
We have to specify. We're not talking about the 2010s super sweaty shirt, fucking Scott Stapp,
We're
where he
talking
shaved
about-
his head.
No,
and
we're
all
talking
that.
about
We're
drunk
talking about
Scott Stapp,
Long-haired,
alcoholic,
don't care.
rock star
1999.
icon,
Yeah, Florida
Scott
man.
Stapp.
Yeah.
He's a
Florida
guy. He's a
man.
Florida guy.
Should have been there on a Sunday
Exactly.
morning, banging my head.
Now,
Yeah.
that being said, a lot of people didn't get into Alter Bridge because they were such big Creed fans. Alter Bridge is probably my favorite band of all time. No, that's not true. I really,
One
Alter
up.
Bridge is
How about
great.
one up?
I really like Alter Bridge. Let me say
I
that.
fucking love Alter Bridge.
That being said, get out and listen to Mark Tremonti's solo shit.
Yes.
And you will have an entirely different respect for him.
But your hot take is
My hot take is that Mark Tremonti is the greatest guitarist of his generation, perhaps of all time, definitely of his generation.
Woo!
And
That is a bold statement,
It's
sir.
heavy metal hot
Now-
takes for a reason, baby.
now, here's why. I don't think there's a guitarist who has spanned the most genres, produced the most bangers, still shreds, still comes up with new shit, is still coming up with new and creative and expansive shit today.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like him. He is the reason why I picked up a guitar, and I know at least one other person as to why he picked up a guitar. One of my cousins. I mean, that to me, Mark Tremonti is kind of an unsung hero of the butt rock era, the metalcore era. That just I know he's been voted like top 5 guitarists of all time. I know he's won Guitarist of the Year however many times, but to me, he's the total package when it comes to a guitarist, a songwriter, a person. You know, he just did some big Frank Sinatra thing. It was like a benefit. I mean,
That takes it fucking hot. I'm
Yeah.
afraid to pick it up.
yeah.
I
I'm gonna
think-
pick it up.
No,
Tyler.
real quick, I'll let
So
you
go
go
ahead.
in just a second.
I'm gonna let
Go
you
ahead.
finish.
I'll
Shred me
promise.
apart.
Go
You know what's
No,
funny?
I
I feel like that we were doing really well on this podcast. People probably really liked me, and then I said that, and they're like, "This fucking guy.
This motherfucker.
this
This guy ain't no fucking
He's
lawyer.
he's not even a boomer core gatekeeper. He's a butt rock gatekeeper.
He's a butt rock gatekeeper.
No, I think you make a very badass point when you say that he's kind of the unsung hero of the butt rock era.
Yeah.
And because a big influence of his, as well as me and Kyler's, was Metallica.
Metallica.
Yeah.
And you can hear it in the shit that he
Yeah. You
writes. Maybe not as much with the Creed stuff, but with the Alter Bridge
Alter
stuff,
Bridge, for sure.
with his solo
Solo
stuff. I think you make one hell of a point in saying that he's an unsung hero of the butt rock.
So, Tyler, Derek, you and I talked about this before, and I told you I disagreed.
Yeah.
And I disagreed with a contingency, like with context. My context being, I think that Mark Tremonti is the greatest guitarist of his genres, being the butt rock, that type of shit. Because I can think of several guitarists that are more well-known, more in that virtuoso type. You know, you mentioned it before the pod that Mark Tremonti's self-taught. He doesn't have a classical music background. He's not a fucking prodigy.
He's a
like
metalhead.
George Lynch,
Yeah.
like Eddie Van Halen.
But
Go ahead.
he will, if you listen to him like when he does like seminars or talks on YouTube and shit, he talks like a trained, in many ways, talks like a trained musician.
He
I'm like,
does.
Holy shit!
He does.
It's
So-
honorable to have taught himself that. You know.
I'm chopping at the fucking bitch.
Go ahead.
I know you have been out. That's why I kept my
So-
mouth short. Go ahead.
So look, I agree with all of the above except the all-time.
Yeah.
So would I say he's one of the greatest of all time? Maybe not. However, to say he's not a virtuoso, I mean, I would have to ask what the definition is.
What I mean by that is someone, so like George, I mentioned too, George Lynch, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads is another one. They were prodigies, right? They were classically trained.
I wouldn't even say Eddie Van Halen was a prodigy.
But he was.
He was really good at finger tapping.
We're getting real fucking hot here.
He invented finger tapping.
He invented tone too.
So,
say
no. What I mean
made
is,
a big
musical teacher, raised as a prodigy from a very young age. They were trained in their craft. Mark Tremonti was not. He is self-fucking-taught.
But he can do pretty much anything those guys do.
Yngwie Malmsteen's another one. When I use the term virtuoso, I put the term virtuoso as a classically trained prodigy guitarist that from the moment they hit the fucking ground, they were destined and trained to be an elite musician.
And I would say...
Joe, holy
That's
shit,
another
Joe.
fantastic...
I would
Stevie
say
Ray Vaughan.
I'm caught in the middle of this debate, and
I
I'm
would say
fucking
Mark
loving it.
Tremonti
I'm loving it.
is an equal with those guys.
I would disagree
He's
with you
amazing,
wholeheartedly.
bro.
Look, I will tell you what.
You're going to put Mark
greatest-
Tremonti against Yngwie Malmsteen?
The greatest guitarist I've ever
crazy.
met.
Hold
It's a
on.
stylistic-
The greatest guitarist I've ever met in my entire life. His name's Tony Tipton. I know you really haven't met the dude.
a
I haven't
bad
met him.
dude.
You've probably seen him play
I've
some of
seen him
his
play, yes.
where he does like the 80s hair metal type shit. But that dude can shred on a level that
Insane.
is really beyond human. Okay? And he recognizes Mark Tremonti for
Well,
what he is able
Here's kind of my point
to
too.
do. And so Mark Tremonti is fucking amazing. He competes with all those guys that you would say are virtuosos.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say he himself
Real,
is a
and
virtuoso.
real quick before Derek goes, me and Tyler talk about this word a ton when it comes to guitar playing, but also the bass and other instruments, but phrasing.
Oh,
Phrasing.
my Lord.
Yeah.
have
Volume
mercy.
And I understand that phrasing may be something that is different for everybody, what they
Do you
gravitate
want to
toward.
touch on phrasing a bit?
No, I don't want to explain it because I think if you're a deep
Yeah.
listener of a podcast like this or
If
music,
you've made it
you
2
would
hours and
understand-
2.5 hours into this pod, you get it.
My wife's gonna be pissed. She's
No,
like, where
it's
you
okay.
been?
Mine already is, so all's good.
Mine's asleep. I don't give a
But
fuck.
I think what makes each and every guitarist different, but also similar, and makes you realize their own talent, is their style and or their phrasing of their music.
So,
Yep.
And that's where I'll let Derek and
Kyler
or
gets to
Kyler
finish.
go.
Kyler finishes,
so
and
let
then
me
I get rebuttal.
clarify where Mark Tremonti, if we're going with Tyler's definition of the term virtuoso, is a virtuoso. Okay, he is a incredibly talented, inventive, unique guitarist, and you cannot take away from what he has done throughout his career. His growth, right? I mean, he's done 3 different genres, essentially. From Creed to
Yep.
Alter Bridge to his solo shit. He's writing a lot of these songs that he's played, and his talent is so undeniable and apparent. But when I cannot put him up against Yngwie Malmsteen, up against Jimi Hendrix, up against Stevie Ray Vaughan. I can't. I just personally can't. I don't consider him on that level. I consider him on the Dave Mustaine, the wow, my voice is really going to shit. The Michi from,
Have another bourbon.
no, I think it's just from singing and everything else that we've been doing tonight. Michi. There's a lot of guys that I
You know
can
what I think
compare.
it is? It's almost like the difference between a guy like Brady and a guy like John Elway, or something. Someone who you would think is like he's the winning quarterback versus the real technical guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
like, or probably
I see what you mean.
the better one would probably be like Elway versus Manning.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Elway was more free for all. Manning was so structured about everything.
It's
Yeah.
probably like that. Brady versus Manning. You like that? I know you're a big Brady guy.
Yeah, but
Kyler's
Brady
over here
and
like
I guess
sports ball.
not to steer off, but Brady and Manning were both known at the line of scrimmage. They were geniuses.
Cerebral.
Yeah.
Mark Tremonti is extremely cerebral,
Yeah.
right? And Stevie Ray Vaughan was feel.
So here,
It
Yeah.
was the flow. It was the I'm
yeah.
going to shred this
Yeah.
shit right here, right now. Mark Tremonti. So Mark Tremonti is Peyton Manning. Stevie Ray Vaughan is Tom Brady. Both fucking legends and goats of their
time.
That's funny because Mark Tremonti definitely has a bigger forehead.
Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning.
I hope we got some sports
in all
fans in here.
fairness, in all
I sure hope
fairness,
so.
in all fairness,
fair.
Stevie Ray Vaughan doesn't have a forehead anymore.
That's true. Oh, okay, that's fucked up.
Wow.
We're all for a good bit of dark humor on
is
here.
Wait,
so.
I apologize, but I'm fucking illiterate. What
He's
are we
dead.
talking about? Oh, god damn.
He's probably
Helicopter
still
crash.
got one. But
But
We're going to have to
So,
edit that
but
part
do you get
out.
where I'm
Yeah,
where I'm
no.
coming from?
I
Where
get you.
feel like guys like
get you.
Jimmy and Stevie Ray and
Yeah.
George Lynch and Yingwie, I've named them all several times. They were more. Tyler Childers is another example in a different genre. It's all feel. It's all emotion.
So-
Mark Tremonti is so intelligent and cerebral that he is so thorough in his music craft
Yeah.
that it's just completely different than some of these other virtuosos.
It's very periphery-esque.
Than Dimebag, than Randy Rhoads, than
Yeah.
Jakey Lee. So many other guitarists
so
that
much
were
of
all
it
feel.
is stylistic too. Like,
Yeah.
I just like that genre of music. You know, I always will. And to get back, this is to kind of like get back into my musical taste a little bit. I like it all.
Yeah.
I like the clean riff. I like the
don't
chugga
get
chugga.
Tyler
I like
started
the
on the clean
shredded.
riff, bro.
I like it all. And Mark
He's
Tremonti
salty.
consistently, he is.
Sorry.
Yeah, check out those blisters on his finger. Dude.
Oh, bro.
Um,
He's soft.
but- Yeah, right. But Mark
Listen, I wish we
Tremonti,
could live stream
Yeah.
Tyler's blisters.
Mark Tremonti,
Bro, he
can
wasn't
clean
fucking
up-
lying. I thought he was being a pussy. Damn.
Look at those motherfuckers.
You ain't playing enough,
He's growing
homeboy.
He's actually growing 2 more fingers.
Two
on
more
top
fingers
of
so
his
he
finger.
can-
You just
he
don't
can quad pick the
understand
bass.
what it takes to play those fucking power lines
Oh.
on that bass.
Yeah. Preston's like, all right, we're going to scrap that song.
Mark Tremonti.
But listen to so many of his songs that start off in a beautiful, clean riff. And
Finger
by the,
picked.
by the
Finger
end of
picked.
it, he is melting your face.
Yep.
So many of those songs.
Yep.
And that's why I picked up a guitar, because I like
What
that.
I say about Mark Tremonti, go listen to Torn by Creed,
Yeah.
and then immediately go to Ties That Bind by Alter Bridge.
Yes.
Waters
Yes.
Rising.
You want to talk
Now,
about...
here's another thing too. He's played in 2 bands with some of the greatest vocals you could ever get. Miles Kennedy. And
Miles
Scott.
Kennedy's my favorite
stuff.
frontman
Dude,
of all time.
All
time.
I
You
mean,
said
they
that
can
for
That's a
wail.
long
years,
time.
bro.
They
Yeah.
can wail.
Yep.
Listen to Mark sing though.
Yeah, he's
on
good.
his solo shit. Yeah.
He's good. No, and what
is-
I'll say real quick, not to plug myself, but I was never interested in finger picking a guitar until I heard riffs from Mark.
You know who got
Tremonti.
me into finger picking? Keith Urban.
Well, and I know
Keith
that we
Urban.
grew up to that as well
The only
because
finger
of where we
picking I
grew
do
up.
is finger picking in my nose.
But no, I'm serious.
Finger picking of what?
my nose.
I was
Mining
never.
for nose gold.
I always appreciated the style of finger picking a guitar, but the way Mark Tremonti did it on a lot of Alter Bridge shit is where I was like, okay, this is a style that I struggle with, but I have to learn in case I were to ever be in a band or whatever, create that
I
music.
really do think that he would get more appreciation if it wasn't for the Creed fiasco, if it wasn't for the attitudes toward butt rock. Like,
Yeah.
I think he would get more appreciation.
I have a great synonym for him,
Yeah.
and I'm going to throw it out there. And you, Tyler, you might not
Synonym,
think much about this,
man.
but Jason Newsted
Ooh,
with Metallica
I see where you're going.
is the most underrated bassist of all time for
see.
several reasons.
See what you're saying?
One, Jason's first album with Metallica. I don't want to stray too far, but it's just a great synonym for what you just said about Mark. The first album that Jason ever recorded with Metallica, and Justice for All, you couldn't hear the fucking bass on the record.
Yeah.
And he has some of the, if you watch the Damaged Justice tour, like Seattle 89, watch him shred anything from the Injustice for All album. It's fucking insane. But you can't hear it on the record. So everybody's like, oh, God, Metallica's dead. Cliff Burton's
He
gone.
gets shit talked like crazy.
So Newsted
Yep.
brought so much energy to their live performances that it was fucking unreal. He wrote some of the
Seattle
most amazing...
89.
Seattle 89. And that, by the way,
Jesus.
that concert has been remastered and is available on YouTube with better audio and better video. Go fucking watch it. It's nuts.
I'm gonna go
But anyways, Newsted,
Pause the podcast.
watch it.
Newsted,
Back.
similar to Mark Tremonti, so Newsted goes through this transition with Metallica from thrash metal to the Black Album to Load, Reload, where they
Yep.
get into this more new wave of heavy metal type shit where they're not as fast, they're playing more groovy shit.
Bouncier stuff, maybe not as.
And then he leaves
guess.
on Saint Anger. And because he was just over it and he wanted to do some of. Full disclosure, Jason Newsted started a side project called Echo Brain that he wanted to pursue, and James Hetfield was like, "No, you're not doing any side projects while you're in Metallica."
Yeah.
So Newsted was like, "Okay, I'm out," respectfully, and
Respectfully, I'm out.
Newsted kind of fell off the face of the earth after that because he was kind of shunned after that deal. Jason Newsted, in my opinion, is one of the most talented musicians that never ever gets the recognition he deserves, similar
Yeah, that's true.
to Mark
I like
Tremonti.
that. I like
Even
that.
though Mark Tremonti seems like he's on
does.
a higher level.
He is.
He gets
Newsted, I
some
feel like, is
recognition.
way more
If I
suppressed.
had to
Yeah.
critique my hot take, it would be that it wasn't hot enough. Because I think there are a lot of Mark Tremonti worshippers out there.
There are.
But at the same
I think
time,
musicians recognize him,
Yeah.
but,
But
the
nobody
masses
else.
don't.
The masses
exactly.
don't.
In Europe,
Good
dude.
point, Tyler.
Alter Bridge does freaking small shows around here. They sell out fucking arenas in Europe. Isn't that crazy?
Dude,
why are they
Miles
kicking
is
our
the
ass so bad?
yeah,
Why is Europe kicking our ass so bad?
bro. Because
Europe has been kicking our ass
no,
since
no
the 60s,
disrespect, because I
bro.
like
The Beatles, The Who, The Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd. Where are they all from?
Yeah.
yeah, but the
England,
other
Black
part
Sabbath,
of it, like,
Led Zeppelin,
is-
AC/DC. None of those are American bands. Judas Priest,
Dude,
Iron Maiden.
The
I could-
consumption of
Motorhead.
American metal in Europe is probably greater than
that's
here.
what I mean. What I'm saying is, and it's no disrespect to
Some weird
the genre
cultural
of
shit.
rap or hip hop, because there's a lot of it that I do like,
Yeah.
but it's diluted rock and metal music in America.
So I forgot to bring this up. I did want to talk about this right before. You guys can get in your hot takes right after, but I do have a philosophy.
We might have to pass up
I
on
do
our
have a philosophy degree. Another reason why I like metal is because I am very Aristotelian.
Yeah.
And one of the concepts that we talked about a lot, not a lot, but just briefly, is that what is the most moral song? What is the most moral type of music? The most moral type of music is not the music about Friday night when you're at the party. The
Okay.
moral music is the music about Saturday morning when you wake up drunk and are faced with life. That's the moral music. That's metal to
I
me.
was going to say, that's metal.
It's sincere. It's genuine. It is what it is actually about life. It's not that part where you just block it off and you're on the boat drinking beer, or you're at the party, or you're chasing girls or whatever. It's that self-reflective genre of music that you don't get anywhere else. That is, I think, metal. The music that's been
It took me
demonized.
45 seconds to understand that. and
Demonized.
now
no,
I'm
it's
mind
just
blown.
fucking punch. You got to give me a second.
Demonized.
Holy shit.
Blamed for shootings, blamed for suicide, blamed for all these things, blamed for drug use. It is the most moral music because it
Go back
talks
to-
about Saturday morning.
Go back
It
to
talks
last
about
week.
Sunday morning.
Remember, we're uneducated devil
We're
worshippers.
uneducated
right?
devil worship. Oh my
Hail
God, that
Satan!
little section of the podcast, like, I don't want to say it this way because it's weird, but touched me in a way that
I'll touch you.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
in a
I'll
way
touch
that
you,
like
but Tyler beat me to
people
it.
don't talk about that enough.
Well, you know what's funny is
It
real
goes
quick.
back to Tyler talking about love ballads. It goes
Yeah.
to Tyler talking about heavies of feeling. It's not. There are
I'm gonna hit
so
y'all with
many
something else.
misunderstood people out there that us included, that are like, no, it's not just people yelling into a fucking microphone.
Yeah.
You need to Google the fucking lyrics and then come back and tell me
Dude,
that it's
And frankly-
that I'm an uneducated
frankly-
devil worshiper.
Exactly.
I had a guy. He was a older black gentleman in Canton, and he was always cleaning up the gym. And I'd always be in the gym in college. At the end of the day, me and one of my coaches, shout out Coach Bones, all day, miss you, man. I'm gonna send this to you. We would always be jamming. One time, this old guy, who I can tell never listened. You look at him, you know he's never listened to a metal song
Right.
in his life.
Sure.
He says, "Holy shit, you listen to this stuff? Do you hear what they're saying? This shit's deep. Why don't more people listen to this?" And I was like, dude,
Thank God.
like, this is the greatest, one of the coolest moments I've ever had, because someone listened to it for more than noise, and he was just cleaning the locker rooms and understood that, like, this shit's deep. We're talking about things that are in many ways almost religious in a lot of ways. You know?
It took
Metal
me,
is a religion.
Yeah.
dude, it took me about 45 seconds to understand what the hell you were just talking about there. Maybe I might be a little slow.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it took me about 45 seconds to understand what you meant about that feeling on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And other than the whole heavy description that we had last week.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best description
Metal's
of
looking
heavy,
in the
heavy
mirror.
metal music.
Metal's
I've
looking
ever
in
we're
the
talking
heard.
about heavy. We're talking about emotion. We're talking about being deep. I'm going to take you back to 1984, and I'm going to read you one of the heaviest verses ever written. Life, it seems, will fade away, drifting further every day, getting lost within myself. Nothing matters, no one else. I have lost the will to live, simply nothing more to give. There is nothing more for me, need the end to set me free. That is some of the heaviest, most darkest
Metallica.
times of your life feeling, but as that song progresses, it changes.
You know,
And that metal artists have been doing this for decades,
A long ass time.
I'm so thankful.
and there's still people that don't get it.
I am so thankful that my parents didn't hear me listening to metal music and think that they should take it away from me.
Amen to that.
Because that I see that happen. You see it happen.
Absolutely.
Culture does that. Now here's one thing my parents did do is like, hey, you understand what they're saying, right? I remember one time 45 Shine Down. That was a great song.
Great
It was one of
song.
the first songs I learned to play on guitar. My dad goes, hey, you know what this is about, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, okay, and turns it back on. And it wasn't like they were afraid that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
They understood that like it was me working through my own problems.
Listen,
I hope to God you guys are listening to this shit right now because this is
Go ahead.
huge.
No, Tyler, I
This
know
is
you're geared up
huge.
for. I'm going to set you up for it too because I am.
I don't give a shit about a time limit right now.
Derek teed this up perfectly because I am so thankful that I grew up in a household with parents that encouraged my musicality.
Yeah.
That encouraged me to listen. My dad was the biggest thrash metalhead. I mean, I grew up in a household that encouraged it, and you know, my parents helped me buy I bought my first guitar myself when I was 11 years old, but my parents went out and bought me an amp. I was encouraged to travel. My parents bought me the band t-shirts. They drove me to the concerts. They drove me to Preston's house to jam. Like, I was encouraged in that. Tyler grew up in a household where his dad was a fucking musician. Derek grew up in a household full of musicians. Preston's dad was so multicultural in different kinds of music and was able to experience so many different things. We were all blessed with the opportunity to grow in music, and so many people out there aren't. And if you're listening right now, it's okay. We are here for you guys.
This is the exact reason we're here.
This is why we're doing this fucking podcast. Is to make you feel included. It is okay to spread your fucking wings and crank that shit.
Yeah.
Tyler, I know you got some shit to say, brother, and I'm going to give you the floor, man.
I hope to God everybody feels every fucking ounce of this.
So I have to admit I'm getting a little emotional.
Good.
over
Me
here
too.
Good, bro.
This is
I'm
awesome.
holding it back too, man.
Because, you know, around this conversation, look, I get weary about showing other people that I'm not entirely comfortable with the music that I'm listening to.
Mm-hmm. I felt that, man.
Because I feel like you can learn a lot about a person around the music they listen to. And if you listen to some of the things that I listen to on a regular basis, like you guys have heard me talk for the last 3 episodes about how deep I go into music and some of the music I listen to, but like in my head, like life is not okay.
Yeah.
In my head, I live a very, and not to be too sappy, like a very sad reality. And you know, there's some diagnosis around it. There's a lot of pain around it, and a lot of the music I listen to, and I mentioned it earlier, I listen to the music because it's able to express what I can't.
What you can't say.
And there are times when I just want to send songs to the people I care about to be like, look, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm feeling. And I know I can't express it the way that you want to hear it. And I've had, you know, failed relationships. I've had strained relationships with family. I even sometimes have a tough time communicating with my own children about certain feelings. And, you know, when I listen to certain songs, certain artists, and some of the things that they're talking about and the things that they're expressing that I literally cannot put into words, it's like knowing that, I mean, there's a literal fucking meme that's kind of funny, but it's like knowing that I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that it's okay to feel a certain way, and knowing that I live in a society where it's not accustomed for me to have feelings and for me to be vulnerable, and I'm expected to be strong. I'm a single dad. I mean, it may be shared parenting, but you know, I'm maintaining a fucking household by myself in a time when, you know, dual fucking income is absolutely necessary, and I'm dealing with strains in my life that, you know, I would say sometimes are unfair. And these artists, these musicians that are writing some of these songs and putting these emotions into words and expressing them through music in a way that I understand, because that's how I can express it. I can express it through music. I can't express it through lyrics because I just can't find the fucking words. It brings me to a point in my life where that's the only avenue I have. I can't go into a fucking therapy appointment and say, Mr. Mrs. Therapist, this is how I'm feeling. Here are the words to describe it. I can't do that.
No, you got to put on a little distance or some shit.
I speak for. I think that I speak for all four of us here when I say, music saved my life,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and not only saved my life once, it saves my life every day. And I don't. That's not as dark as it sounds, but
Yeah.
when I think about how hollow my life would be
There's a level of fulfillment that it provides for you.
if I didn't have music.
Yeah.
And no, not just hard rock and heavy metal music.
No, yeah, we've shot out Childers multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, there's
There's hip hop
plenty of-
artists that speak to me.
Yeah.
There's country artists that speak to me. But it is predominantly hard rock and heavy metal because of
yeah.
what we spoke to earlier about the emotion.
There's just a genuine sincerity in metal, in hard rock, in the music that in all these bands we've shouted out that you don't find anywhere else.
No.
That's why it's so unique. That is why there is a brotherhood, and that is why there is a community behind the shit that we listen to.
And that's why
This was created.
That's why we're sitting here doing a podcast right
Yep.
now. Hey guys,
Exactly
I apologize.
I had to
My
toss in
voice is shot.
a chewbacker because
Yeah.
that got a little intense for a moment.
And again, I
Dude,
apologize.
It's not-
guys.
look,
Hey, I
look.
looked around the couch. There was some vulnerability.
But
Look,
there
I
was
gotta
some-
say, it is not easy expressing that kind of
Yeah.
shit, knowing that other people are going to listen to this,
yeah,
and people that I care about are going to
Yeah.
listen to this.
Once again, the reason we created
that's
is
the
for
whole.
this shit
That's
right here,
literally
dude.
the whole.
Yeah.
And
This shit
guys,
right
we are 2.5 hours
Yeah.
or
I don't
more
care.
deep into this
I
thing.
don't care.
And
All
if
right.
you have hung on,
yeah.
it's fucking worth it. And again, I apologize for my voice being shot, but that's part of the game.
I need another
We've
hot take.
what's that?
I need another hot take.
I got one.
I got one for you. You ready for
I have a
mine?
spicy take.
We've talked about it a little bit. Metallica has become overhated in the last 5 years or so, similar to Nickelback, for absolutely no fucking reason. And I don't quite get it. And again, guys, I'm so sorry for my voice being shot.
I dig it.
I think we're all just
And-
tired.
And it's social media has become a big driver of that hate of Metallica.
Yeah.
I see nothing but love for Metallica,
You're seeing the wrong fucking shit,
and
dude.
I am not much of a fan of Metallica.
We know, yeah, but the listeners don't know that. So yeah,
The
go
listeners don't know this. I do not like Metallica. I appreciate their influence. There are
They saved
very
my
few
life.
artists that I listen to that don't say that they're somehow influenced by Metallica. But I'm not a big fan of their music, and I think part of that might be the vocals, part of that might be when I first heard them, it was a particular album that was give me fuel, give me fire, give me all
no
my
fucking
desire.
wonder.
Like,
so
that's
when
the
I
first
first
fucking Metallica album you
so
heard,
like
No Wonder.
when I first
I
heard
shouldn't be playing in a
Metallica,
band with this guy.
it was stuff like that. And when I first started playing guitar, one of the first songs I learned was Nothing Else Matters. So I did
beautiful fucking
I
song.
did at some point like them, but I think part of me clumps them into this old rock that I just kind of shun in my own world because it's just not what I like to play, and it's not what I enjoyed listening to.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I think there's another, if I could speak for you, and I'm probably wrong by saying this, but I feel like this is real. Everything that you had delved into and you were gravitated toward was all about feel, and maybe it felt as if Metallica's music at the time wasn't about feel.
Yeah, I
that's a
didn't
good way to
feel
just-
anything when I
Yeah.
listened to them.
But for me and maybe Kyler and a million others out there, we were riff riders.
Yeah.
So
Riffers, just
that's,
riff
that's what we
riders.
gave a fuck about.
I feel like
So
everybody has a
we were all
Metallica
about it.
The reason that I play guitar is because of Metallica.
Same here.
I feel like
Same here.
I feel like everybody.
Same
has,
as Mark Tremonti.
everybody
Fuck.
has a little Metallica face.
Yeah.
How many bands today would not be around if it wasn't for Metallica?
Yeah.
Half of them.
Half of them. You're correct. There wouldn't even be certain genres.
I've seen a little bit of that hate though.
there
Like,
has
like,
been.
There's like an attitude, and I think it's
A lot of it has to do with Dave Mustaine.
I think it's these boomer fucking
There-
core gatekeepers.
There are so many.
That's exactly.
There are so many people that are still butthurt that Kirk Hammett recorded all the songs and solos that Dave Mustaine wrote for Kill 'Em All.
Yeah.
And yes, Dave Mustaine is probably a better musician, but it's a completely different deal. It is what it is. You cannot hate on the success and the influence in the span.
Yeah, dude.
that
They played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Metallica.
Fuck.
Metallica's the only band in the world that's ever played on all 7 continents. Did you know that? They've played a concert on Antarctica.
That's metal.
That's metal as fuck.
That is metal as fuck.
right.
And I hope
Metallica-
it's
I mean,
still around
it
for
it
that.
is kind of the basis of, a lot of fucking 2000, like,
You know what's crazy?
late
though?
2000s, early 2010s, like, metal music videos.
What's crazy? To
Yeah.
Metal
Yeah.
in the snow.
Yeah.
Or in the rain.
There's
Or
this
in the
band-
rain.
There's this band called like Alaska
In a
or some
forest.
shit. Hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick.
So yeah,
shit.
it's just there's just
Wait,
A
what was
lot
the
of-
hot? Oh, that was the hot take.
yeah, it was just that there was a lot.
We're so
of,
deep into the show, I'm forgetting the hot takes.
It was just that there was a lot of.
P Dunn,
Hey,
what's your hot metal?
I'm going to sound
heavy
extremely
metal hot
selfish when I say all of this, and it's because of the personal influence that Metallica had on me. I agree that there is this weird level of hate within the last, I would say, roughly 5 to 8 years, and maybe it's shorter, maybe it's longer. You can't hate on their influence that they had. Periphery would not be a band if it wasn't for Metallica. Mark Tremonti would not be an artist if it wasn't for Metallica. Avenged Sevenfold would not be a fucking
Bullet. all
same.
of them.
Same goes for anybody. Metallica as a band
Bro,
changed.
Alice in Chains, one of their biggest.
Metallica
influences is
changed the whole
Metallica.
trajectory, of my entire life.
Yeah.
I'm forever indebted to Metallica just because of their creative songwriting, whether it's a ballad like Fade to Black, Sanitarium, I could name them all, or as heavy as Creeping Death. They made
Or
me
Battery, or
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, they made me want to play the guitar, and there's a reason I'm sitting here
because
with
we were
Tyler
riff
right
riders.
now.
I mean, we were. I mean,
Yeah, there's a reason I'm sitting
Metallica
with
is the
Tyler
reason
right
I
now.
am sitting on this couch right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I owe so much. to
So
them.
many people could say that as well.
literally millions of people
Yeah.
can say that.
Well, there's not that many people on this couch, so.
Well, on their own couch.
Fuck, sit on your own damn couch and talk about Metallica. So,
Anybody else have anything to
Tyler,
add to
if
that?
you have anything, real quick.
So, real quick, Kyler, I kind of talked to you a little bit Friday at dinner. about what my hot take was going to be, and I normally don't tell anyone
we
what it's going to be until
I don't remember it, so if it
happens.
makes you feel any better.
You two have not heard it yet, but tone is in the left hand, feel is in the right hand.
Oh yeah.
And for you lefties, vice versa.
Vice versa.
Oh yeah.
100%. And Tyler, what did we talk about? We talked about Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Who was all feel.
So
his
it goes
best
back
hand
to
was his right hand.
You have to think about somebody putting down a really moody solo. That's
Flow
where my mind
from
went to.
Novelist.
So the things I think about is kind of going back to some of that music theory talk that we had, and it's the musical elements that allow you to feel the music is more so around dynamics and texture and things like that, whereas tonality is more the pitch, the harmony. Are you giving it a little bit of vibrato? Are you holding it out? Are you shortening up the notes? Things like that. So I would say what makes so many lead guitarists so great, particularly in the realm of like blues and things like that, is that their right hand is fucking phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also able to attach with that a level of, like, look, when I play my Fender, it gives me exactly what I put into it. So if I barely touch the string when I pick it, when I barely touch the string when I pick it, it sounds and feels so much different than when I really hit that string.
Yeah.
That's also a difference in with a single coil too.
And
I don't want to get too deep.
I hope
into that.
musicians are still
playing
listening because
acoustic,
that
though,
might be
too,
the
the
only
same.
that can
Playing
relate.
an acoustic, and
might
that's
be
a
even
big
more
reason
so.
is because when I play the acoustic guitar, and Kyler, I've played a few of these new songs I've been writing, the dynamic levels I go through are very drastic, and I do it intentionally, and I'll throw in some dynamic range within a certain cadence of the songs that I write because I want that's how you get the feel in there is with what you're doing with the right hand. And then, it's often said that tone is in the hands. Well, that is in the left hand. That is how hard are you holding the note down?
Pressure.
Are you holding it in the right spot, right behind the fret? Are you giving it a little bit of vibrato? Are you bending the strings a little bit? What are you doing over here with the left hand? And honestly, it gets so deep as to, like, hammer-ons, pull-offs. How are your fingers really interacting with those strings? And you can hear the difference in someone like Stevie Ray Vaughan playing and the way his left hand brings out the tone of that fucking guitar versus me grabbing a fucking guitar.
Yeah.
And my tone is dog shit no matter what setting I fucking put it in. So that is my hot take. What do y'all
And
think?
the only problem with that hot take is it's not really a hot take, brother. It's
a
facts.
fact.
Yeah.
It's facts.
Facts.
All musicians listening will relate.
Well,
Yeah.
as soon as anybody that's played guitar heard that, they're going.
That kind of gave me like,
that's
chills
not a
little
hot take,
bit.
bro.
Yeah.
That's
Some chills,
that's
dog.
my bro
Because-
It's
speaks a
real.
million languages.
Yeah.
and
it is
shows
real.
This big fact.
We're on this podcast and we're speaking real shit, people. We are speaking real shit.
Well, yeah, that's like you got some good hot takes, man. I gotta admit that.
But it wasn't a hot take.
Yeah. That's
Here
true.
I am shitting on Tyler now instead of Kyler.
He's passing the love. So, guys, we are almost to 3 hours.
Oh, I got one more band to shout out. If you like some weird ass shit like me, like Shrezzers, Valiant Hearts. VALIANT.
I've heard the name, but I
Hearts.
cannot remember.
They got
anything.
some weird stuff that gets me in my feels.
Okay.
I like being in my feels.
Shout out Valiant Hearts.
I'm gonna send some stuff to the group chat. Check them out.
Okay.
They're like weird. I thought about it because they have some song about like Alaska or something, and you said something about rock in the snow, and I was like, dude, I got the perfect band.
Beautiful. We love music shout outs. So, For everybody that's hung on this long, y'all already know it's been well worth it. Because
Go back and listen to Mud Vein. Go back and listen to Mud Shovel by Stain. Go back and listen to Your Drowning Pool.
This has
pull out that old shit.
Easily been the best album so far. And Derek,
Best
you
episode.
Best episode.
Did I say best album?
You did.
We've been recording too long. So again, apologize for my voice sounding like shit.
Joe Rogan ain't got shit on us. We'd be going longer. I didn't take a piss the whole time.
Derek's the only one that hasn't got up to take a piss.
I just hope we've I don't know that we have, but I hope we've done an okay job of keeping the listener engaged throughout, because I feel like we've gotten some real deep conversations that mean a ton to each and every one of us.
And that's the whole point of the show, right? And because I feel like we can relate to a ton of people out there. And Derek, you were talking about, oh God, I'm nervous before coming on the show, and you, my friend, are a fucking natural.
Oh, dude.
An
I really hope
fucking
so.
pro.
Hey, I hope all these people out here, all the people who follow Kyler on TikTok, everybody who follows the band, I hope you guys listen. I hope you got something out of the podcast. I hope you get the opportunity to come on someday and talk about your
Hell
journey.
yeah.
You know what I really liked was the experience of watching practice and then sitting down and talking about that. Was a lot of fun.
It makes for a long night, but it makes for a night that you won't forget for a long time. And that's the whole goal. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and growing with us and relating with us and all of the above. So thank you to our listeners so much.
And for our listeners, we got the first taste of what the logo is going to look like today.
Oh,
So I heard back.
Shit!
I heard back from the designer, and he sent me a little snippet. I think you guys are going to like what we put together.
I can't fucking wait.
It's definitely going to be somewhat oddball, but so aren't we all?
I was going to say, isn't that what we are?
Yeah.
Wait till you see this new logo on a shirt with "That's Metal as AF" on the back of it. I'm fucking juiced out of my mind.
That's
new colors, new logo, new brand, and we are doing this for us, for you guys, for the metal brotherhood that we're all a part of. So thank y'all so much
Do
for
it
the love
for
and
everybody.
support. So, real quick shout outs. I do want to shout out my guy Raven from the band Carved in Skulls out on the Northeast Coast.
That's nasty.
We've been having a great conversations. This guy, he is 18 years old. He is killing it. Please give him a follow on TikTok. He's at Raven_CINS. Again, lead vocalist for the band Carved in Skulls. They're actually looking for a guitarist or two. So if you're in the Northeast, out in Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, look up Raven_CINS on TikTok. Give him a shout out. Appreciate him. We've had some great conversations. He's doing some awesome shit. And again, I want to shout out my good buddy Jake over at Metalcore Highlights up in Michigan. He is working on a promo
Go
video.
Bucks.
Yeah, go Bucks, Jake. I'm sorry. He's working on a promo video edit for us as well to promo the podcast. He's a hellacious visual video editor, so he's working on some shit for us too. Always having great conversation with him. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. We are the Screaming Idiots.
Peace, love, dove.
Holy shit.